We're inside the Carrier Dome for a beautiful Sunday evening for college basketball in Syracuse, New York, as the Syracuse Orange play host to the NC State Wolfpack and a big-time ACC college basketball matchup. I'm Giovanni here alongside Kyle Marchak, as always, your broadcast team for tonight. And Marchak, we got a good game set up here. Syracuse, North Carolina State. And on paper, it's not necessarily the most exciting matchup when you look at the national landscape. But this is a game that means a lot as far as two bubble teams trying to make a push for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is going to be a huge statement game. I mean, even the records are indicative of it. Both 5-loss teams. NC State coming off a 4-game skid, as a matter of fact. They just got their first win in over a month. Previously, against North Carolina was actually their last good performance, you could say, although that didn't end well either. And really, they're ending a 4-game skid, their last game against a 5-7 Wake Forest. And the big thing for them, I think, tonight will be rebounding for sure.
And now Syracuse on the other side has had some ups and downs as the season has gone along. Both teams looking for a big victory. But when you look at the North Carolina State Wolfpack, the biggest thing that stands out right here is the absence of Devin Daniels. He was the leading scorer for this NC State team, and this is really a team that plays through their guard, Devin Daniels. What a big opportunity for the other guys on the team to step up, but what a big loss for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's going to be a huge question mark. Who will guide NC State tonight? Thunderberg, definitely a guy who can find himself up there as they're putting up a graphic of his stats. He's certainly a guy. And then, of course, their guard, Cam Hayes, with 3.1 assists per game, is also leading in that category for the Wolfpack. So he's another guy to look out for tonight.
Manny Bates, also a dominant force on the boards for the Wolfpack as well, 5.5 rebounds per game. And that's going to be a matchup to watch down low. Quincy Guerrier up against the forward Manny Bates going at it, most likely toe-to-toe all night. And then you mentioned it, DJ Funderburk, one of the best in the Atlantic Coast Conference. He could definitely find himself having a game. Marchak, I mentioned it. This is a Wolfpack squad that really played through Devin Daniels, much like how Syracuse used to do through players like Tyus Battle. So it's a next man up kind of mentality. This is their first game without Devin Daniels. We'll see how the test proves to be tonight inside the Dome. And we're underway here in Syracuse, New York, as the opening tip was a little bit awkward, but it goes towards the NC State Wolfpack. The Wolfpack wearing their all-red uniforms, red tops, red bottoms, Syracuse in the home whites, of course, as they always are, and the Wolfpack sharing the ball well at the top of the key. Syracuse, obviously, in that vaunted 2-3 zone defense, which has been a little bit back and forth as the year's gone along. Some great games for them, and then some games where the zone has struggled. And we have our first bucket of the night nonetheless, and it's down low. It's a layup for Jericho Helms, who also will be a guy that has the capability of stepping up to possibly fill the shoes of Devin Daniels. Jericho Helms, a 6'7", 205-pound forward, a junior out of St. Louis, Missouri. Here's Syracuse, Dolajai on the left side, up to Boeheim, top of the key. Tightly guarded here at the top by Cam Hayes. You mentioned him. Boeheim a drive, kisses it off the glass, and we'll get a foul on the floor before the shot, Marchak. Quick points for NC State on the other end of the court, and it was a good one out of Jericho Helms.
Yeah, right off the bat, you see Boeheim on the other end, though, kind of keeping it simple, driving to his right side. Of course, he's right-handed, so he tends to do that from the top of the key, and we'll see if that'll work tonight. Not a guy who scores in the paint a ton, perhaps more of a three-point shooter, although he's struggled with that lately as well. So we'll see how that goes for Boeheim tonight.
Now, Dolajai at the top of the key for Syracuse. Hits Boeheim, right wing, three-pointer, up, rails around, and good. So Syracuse takes a quick early lead here, 3-2 to be exact, just about a minute into the ballgame. Starting five for NC State. Cam Hayes at the 1, Thomas Allen the 2, Braxton Beverly 3, Jericho Helms the 4, and Manny Bates playing down low at the 5 position. Three-pointer right wing is pure for the NC State Wolfpack, and it's a big bucket that time. Braxton Beverly running the point guard position, 6 foot, 185-pound guard, a senior out of Kentucky. So they're going to need him tonight, especially to fill the spot of, we've mentioned it many times, Devin Daniels. Now Syracuse looking for a response here. Gerard pulls up from the ACC logo just past the charity stripe, off the mark, couldn't hit. And our rebound, here come the Wolfpack going the other way. Braxton Beverly on the right side, now gives it up. Pass to the interior, jumper, left baseline, and he hits. A big shot again. Jericho Helms, his second bucket of the night. And a lead now for NC State, 7-3, 17:45 left to go in the game. And on Wednesday against against Wake Forest, he had 17 points. Helms looking to fill the shoes of Devin Daniels and possibly have another big game tonight. Pass to the inside. Dolezaj lays it up and in for an easy 2. 5-7 now your score. NC State leads it by 2. 17:26 left on the clock here in the first half of action. Both teams going back and forth. Alan Griffin stretches out for a steal here, his first of the game, and it's NC State's first turnover. Now Alan Griffin pulling up, left side, three-pointer, count it. 8-7 the lead for Syracuse. That's a big shot out of the Illinois transfer, Marchak.
Yeah, at small forward, you could say he's one of the most dynamic men on the court, and he usually is for Syracuse. Of course, Guerrier, a guy to look at too.
Turning defense into offense, but now a dunk on the interior on the other end of the court, and it's Manny Bates. Watch for that to be a mismatch if you're NC State and rooting for the Wolfpack. A 6'11", 230-pound forward, redshirt sophomore out of Fayetteville, North Carolina. Syracuse simply does not have a guy of that size to play with that. Guerrier pulls up for 3, top of the key. That's his first shot and his first miss of the night. Off the back rim and out. Rebound going the other way. Jericho Helms pulled it down, and the Wolfpack will slow down their tempo a little bit here. Three-pointer, right wing, front rim and out. Dolezaj fighting for the rebound. Alan Griffin able to pull it down. Cam Hayes is the man who couldn't hit in red. And here's Girard, top of the key, giving it off to Boeheim, right wing. Boeheim a drive, trying to get to the tin, and he's fouled on the floor. Foul will be against, I believe it will be against Manny Bates down low. And it's a 9-8 lead for the Wolfpack.
Yeah, and a small play right there by Beverly coming in from the wing and trying to assist in the defense on the inside, some good help defense, and forcing actually Boeheim to go to his left. And I think it's obvious thus far that Boeheim, a guy who is right-handed, as I mentioned earlier, favors driving to his right, but had to cut to his left and almost got that one stolen away from him, actually.
Girard, an inbound, almost got it stolen away. And now, nonetheless, Boeheim picks it up, gets it to Alan Griffin, and a three-pointer from the left wing wide open. And now Syracuse hits and takes an 11-9 lead. Alan Griffin has had 2 early buckets for Syracuse that have been huge. Just under 16 minutes to play here in the first half inside the dome. Kick to the inside. Manny Bates, a dunk with nobody around him. That's his second big throwdown of the night, and we're all even at 11 apiece. 15:40 left to go on the clock here. Points in the paint, NC State has 6, Syracuse has 2. That's a mismatch to look out for. Alan Griffin, left wing three-pointer, off the back rim, no good. Rebounded Wolfpack, and here comes NC State moving up the court. Shaquille Moore in the ball game at the 1 guard as well now for NC State. Braxton Beverly tried to kick it over to Moore, and it goes off the foot of Quincy Guerrier. So we will stay on this end of the court when we return. But a first TV timeout of the night. Alan Griffin has been electric from downtown for Syracuse, but it's been, on the other end, Manny Bates down low with a couple of throwdowns for NC State. Marchak, we got a game. It's 11-all, just 4 minutes into it.
Yeah, as opposed to some of the past games by Syracuse, especially that VTech game only a couple weeks ago where it was a game of runs, although it looked back and forth, several 7-0, 8-0 runs from both squads, and it was just back and forth. And, of course, that the NC State, they're more of a team that likes to go back and forth with squads, especially, without Devin Daniels, you may not see increments of them scoring, in 11s or, as much as you'd like to see it for Syracuse games usually. So this, I think, will stay back and forth. It's going to be a fun game to watch tonight, Gio.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Marchak. And speaking of Virginia Tech, the landscape of the ACC completely different this season. And we've talked about it pretty much every single game, but it continues to get more and more unique as the season moves along. Duke, not even in the equation. North Carolina falling far out of the equation. Actually leading the way right now is still Virginia, but it was number 1 seed Virginia. Then it was 2 seed Florida State. And then the 3 was Virginia Tech. Well, last night, the 20th ranked Hokies, who Syracuse blew out of the water by almost 20 points, took down number 8 Virginia, who Syracuse lost to by double-digit points. So just a weird series of events there in the last couple of weeks of inconsistencies. And now Virginia Tech nearly taking that top spot in the Atlantic Coast Conference, and Syracuse beat it by 20. So what a season it has been here in the ACC. Teams like Duke not even in the equation. Leading the way right now, it's still Virginia, despite the loss last night by double digits to Virginia Tech. At the 2 seed, it's Virginia Tech. And then at the 3, it's Florida State. The Orange will play against Florida State at some point this season. They were supposed to play earlier. That was a game that got postponed and canceled, Marchak. But it's been a unique year in the ACC, to say the least.
Yeah, absolutely. It's certainly statistically just a weird conference to look at. Obviously, for conference rankings, they go by the conference records, and so the bottom two winning teams, or the least winningest teams, I guess you could say, of the cream of the crop in the ACC conference is NC State and Syracuse. NC State right at the bottom, above Notre Dame and Wake Forest, Miami and Boston College, and then right above NC State, Syracuse, both of them with 3-4 records in the conference, despite their winning records right at the bottom there. So certainly you could say the landscape has really been flipped on its head for sure.
Oh, I couldn't agree with you more. We have some questions we'd love to address in the comment section. DJ says, thoughts on a Sunday primetime game? I meant to mention it. A little weird. First week without football at this time right now. I mean, I'd usually be watching NFL football and getting some homework done right about 6 o'clock on a Sunday night, right? So it's definitely weird to not be watching the NFL. And nonetheless, we have some primetime ACC college basketball. I'm not complaining. I'm sad that there's only one football game left this year, which is the Super Bowl. And then we'll have to wait a terrible 200 days or more to see either college or NFL football. We will have high school football, though, which will be unique. So we're back to basketball inside the Dome. Just about 15 minutes left to go here. First half, Braxton Beverly, three-pointer left side hits. 3 points on the board for the Wolfpack, 14-11. Now the lead for NC State is we are just under 15 minutes to go in the first half. Dolezaj just getting past half court. Now it's Boeheim a drive. NC State in a full court press, and his shot was tipped away and blocked. Last to touch it was Guerrier trying to pull down a loose ball. Out of bounds it goes. That means we'll head the other end of the court, and Syracuse coughs up a possession. The Orange are 4 for 9 from the field. NC State 6 for 7, just a little bit more efficient here so far through 5.5 minutes of play. Here comes the Wolfpack on the right side. It's Braxton Beverly. Now kick to the interior. Great 2-3 zone for Syracuse. Dolezaj tried to poke it away, but a foul on the floor, and they'll get Dolezaj for it. So Jericho Helms is the man who's able to soak it for NC State. And that was a good trap, though, by the 2-3 zone, Marchak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, its functionality usually works against teams like this where their three-point shooting isn't elite, although they've had some success with that tonight.
Here's Helms, who pulls up from the left elbow, but it's blocked away by Girard. Here comes Syracuse in a fast break. Kick up to the top of the key. Boeheim to Alan Griffin, left wing. Alan Griffin, a pump fake, tries to drive. Back to Boeheim, top of the key, three-pointer, off the front rim and out. Dolezaj, an offensive rebound. Girard, a pump fake, right wing three. This time he hits. Joey G. the third from downtown, 14 all inside the Dome. And that was a great series of events on offense for Syracuse.
Well called, Gio. And if that isn't cardiac cues, I don't know what is. Back and forth, great ball movement right there. Girard hitting at the end.
Got my little bit of cardio for the day in there. Here's on the other side, Braxton Beverly, three-pointer from deep. That one's off the back rim and out. Girard, a rebound, and here comes Syracuse. Boeheim, a pump fake, left wing. Now back to Girard. And they'll settle things down a little bit here. They're using that pump fake a lot tonight, are the Orange, and just looking for the perfect shot. Girard over to Dolezaj, who's standing at the top near the Syracuse logo. Back to Alan Griffin, who came to the ball. Griffin a drive, tried to kiss it off the glass, and he's fouled down low by Manny Bates. So now Alan Griffin will shoot 2 from the free throw line, and the Orange moving the ball well offensively, but NC State really not letting them get any penetration down low.
Yeah, Griffin, a guy who comes in and out of the paint a lot, and when he gets to the top of the key, I think they know that his combination of size and athleticism, they really have to guard him tight, and they did well right there, although he did draw the foul. So a good play by Griffin, but NC State, I think, will prevent those points in the paint as much as possible, especially with the playing styles of guys like Quincy Guerrier, who is Cuse's leading scorer.
Now Alan Griffin at the free throw line for Syracuse hits his first, and a lot of substitutions coming right now for the Wolfpack. Jalen Gibson, the most notable player who's checking in right now at the forward spot for NC State, a freshman on this team, and an opportunity for him to step up, as well as Seaborn, who's down low, also playing the forward spot at the one guard position. So now NC State, some new faces on the floor, Marchak, and again, an opportunity to step up and just take the place of Devin Daniels, but it's kind of like it's going to take a team effort here tonight. Syracuse leads at 16-14. Three-pointer top of the key. That one's off the mark. Leaving it short was Cam Hayes, and here comes Syracuse. Under 13 minutes to play. Girard dribbled it between his legs. Tried to get it to Boeheim. Streaking out for a steal was Cam Hayes. Going the other end. And a big block by Alan Griffin, but the whistle is blown for a foul. And Griffin standing there like this, knowing that he just was this close to getting all ball.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, you see guys like Gerard, who, of course, not super long and athletic, so he really refuses to make a huge effort on the plays, although I think he defended well in transition right there. And then guys like Griffin, who are just so dynamic in transition and can sit down and really guard in ISOs. He's so fun to watch. Although he isn't the leading player on this Syracuse roster, I'd say he's my favorite to watch for sure. A guy who's super dynamic at his position, as I mentioned, and the way he plays with absolute hustle on every play is just so fun to watch.
You know, it kind of looked like he was going to try and swat it off the backboard like he's done many times this year. Yeah. So I think Gerard being there actually threw him off a little bit because Cam Hayes didn't know exactly what to do with the ball as he hits 1 for 2 from the free throw line. Syracuse with a 16-15 lead still. Here's Gerard, a baseline drive, a jumper, and he hits. Syracuse now with a 3-point advantage, 18-15, and the Orange are hot shooting the ball so far in the first half. 12 and a half minutes to play in the first half of action here. NC State sharing the ball well. There's Gerard poking it away, but it falls in the hands of Jericole Helms, who hits from the left elbow, and now NC State within 1. The Orange almost had a big steal, and it was just right place, right time for Helms there, Marchak.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just a super dynamic game. Both teams cutting in and out from the paint, trying to create space, which is kind of the name of the game tonight, in order to create those shot opportunities. And I think, creating those shot opportunities really has improved the shot selection a ton for both squads.
And now Syracuse here, a feed from Dolezaj to a cutting Guerrier who slams it home. The Orange back up 3, 20-17, 11:45 on the clock in the first half, and NC State just cannot stop the Orange on that end of the court. If Syracuse's defense can catch up, we might have ourselves a little bit of a stretch in the scoreboard for the Orange. NC State looking for a big response here with some of their young bucks on the court. Here's Helms, a drive to the inside, pulling up a body on Alan Griffin. Couldn't hit the layup, but Griffin does commit the foul. So when we return here on the ACC network via our television production, what we are seeing right now, it will be Helms at the line for 2, and the Wolfpack will try and make this a 1-point game once again. 20-17 the lead for Syracuse, 11 and a half to play through the first half, Marchak. And the Orange are looking good. They really are not missing a shot right now, not skipping a beat. And they're really spreading the ball well. Different guys are scoring. You're seeing 3-pointers, you're seeing 2-point jump shots, and you're seeing feeds to the inside.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could say stylistically almost that the offensive production on both ends of the court has looked very similar. Both teams cutting to the inside, creating space, kicking the ball out. Ball movement has looked elite, feeding the big men when they can. You see Dolezaj, who is listed as our center, actually feeding our power forward, you could say, in Quincy Gary on that last play. He's a guy who can drop dimes for sure at his position. He's certainly elite at that in the ACC. And really, it's just fun to watch both teams spreading the wealth, as you said. I think without Devin Daniels, of course, it's going to be tougher for NC State to perform the way they want to, a team that leans on that lead guy and Daniels often. We hope his recovery goes well. It's certainly awful to see with the ACL tear, in their most previous game. With that being said, I think without him, they're spreading the wealth. They're forced to, at least, because they're not just feeding one guy the entire time. And so they're trying to see who's going to be the guy that takes over. And for now, it may look like it's no one, although Helms is certainly probably the most dynamic guy at his position to watch tonight.
Yeah, he's had himself a game, and I'll go back to it all night. Look for Manny Bates to get going down low because, again, Syracuse doesn't have a 6'11", 240-pound guy to play against that. And we've seen guys with that kind of size dominate against Syracuse. Jay Huff, a prime example for Virginia, but then a guy like Keve Aluma for Virginia Tech with that same size actually struggled against Syracuse, got into early foul trouble. So the thing about this SU team is they've been extremely inconsistent throughout this season. Nonetheless, the opportunity is ahead of them to get a big win against NC State tonight. Arguably, I think, Marchak, this is a must-win if you're SU, because if you fall to NC State, a depleted NC State team, when it comes bubble time, these are going to be 2 bubble teams, and you're going to have to look at a game like this. Okay, who won that game? Who deserves to get that slight advantage? And the winner of this game, this could mean much more than it looks on paper with a 9-5 and a 7-5 team going at it, I guess is my argument here.
No, I mean, I absolutely agree, because if you kind of reminisce back to 2017, I believe was the year that we last made the NIT. Down the stretch, we lost to some very mediocre teams with similar records to us, if not worse. And then we beat the teams that we shouldn't have, like Duke, who was top 10 at the time, with a huge buzzer beater, John Gillen, Everyone remembers that game for sure. If you are a Syracuse fan, a massive win for them. And we thought, that should absolutely seal it. Dick Vitale was on the call. He said this is such a great team, and he was so proud of John Gilling for leading them over that huge win. Obviously, a massive upset. With that being said, that didn't get them into the NIT. So even if Syracuse loses this game and ends up beating the teams that they're not supposed to down the stretch, that can't lead them to the NCAA tournament. They have to win every game that they can at this point.
And I'd make the argument, Marchak, the Orange got robbed that season. 3 wins over top 10 teams inside the Dome, and they don't get into the tournament. It was kind of a situation where they kind of made up for the fact that SU shouldn't have gotten in the year before and then made it all the way to the Final Four in 2016. The Orange had a way better resume in 17, didn't get in than they did in 16 when they made it to the Final Four. So college basketball is a mystery, and we'd love to get back to the days where Syracuse is just in no matter what, anywhere between a 1 and a 5 seed, and it's not a question mark come Selection Sunday. The Orange not looking like this is the season to do so, as we're back to basketball inside the Dome. And Helms hits both of them at the free throw line. 20-19, your score. The Orange with a 1-point advantage over the Wolfpack. 11.5 to play. And again, NC State in that full court press. The Orange just getting it over the half court line. Kadari Richmond in the ball game right now. They're running 3 guards. Richmond at the 1, Girard the 2, Boeheim the 3. Then you have Quincy Guerrier and Merrick Dolezaj at the 2 forward and center spots. So you love to see that. That 3-guard position has really been beneficial for Syracuse a couple times this season when the matchups are fair. Here's Boeheim, a drive, a pump fake, and he hits the follow through. But it looks like they're going to call an offensive foul on the floor against Boeheim. The floater was good, but it will not count. Offensive foul, and able to soak it that time for NC State was Braxton Beverly.
Yeah, Beverly looking really solid on defense. That's another big play against Boeheim, a guy who's struggled to drive lately, and so I think he's noticed that for sure.
And here's Beverly on the other end of the court, hitting a corner 3-pointer from the left side along the baseline. And just like that, NC State now has a 2-point lead over Syracuse, and the press is certainly getting to Syracuse as well on the offensive end.
Yeah, you have to wonder exactly what they're doing in the press in order for it to function so well. You definitely see they're pushing more guys up the court in order to set up that trap and prevent the ball from getting up as quick as possible. And so guys like Girard, who lack size, get trapped very easily and struggle to get that ball off.
Now Beverly with it at the top of the key for NC State. The Orange really trying to get those traps alive in the zone, and we'll get a foul on the floor. Guerrier reaching for the ball. And if you're Guerrier, you don't want to waste your fouls in situations like reach-ins. If you're going to foul, you want it to be on a shot, right? Syracuse needs him in this game to succeed. Coming into this game as the leading scorer with 16.8 points a game, also the leading rebounder with 9.4 points a game. This close to averaging a double-double is Quincy Guerrier. The Orange, I think he's the most prolific player on this team right now. The Orange are going to need him. 3-pointer here from the top of the key off the mark. Unable to hit that time for the Wolfpack was Cam Hayes, and here comes Syracuse with some speed down the other end. Boeheim thought about a 3 from the left wing, gives it to Dolezaj on the inside. Dolezaj a drive, kisses it off the glass, tightly contested down low, but the senior from Slovakia gets it to fall, Marchak. That's a big play out of the Slovakian hammer.
Oh, yeah, the ball movement's looking fantastic so far for both squads.
3-pointer here off the mark for NC State. Last touch by Manny Bates going for a rebound, and that means with a 22-22 score, 9:51 left to go in the first half, the Orange now are awarded the possession. Dolezaj taking it down the court up to Girard along the right sideline because that NC State team is in such a press. Alan Griffin, wide open 3-pointer from the right corner off the rim and out. Dolezaj pokes it away in transition. Alan Griffin scoops it up in Syracuse with another steal here. Here's Girard cutting. Hits Dolezaj, and Dolezaj trying to go for 2 will be fouled. That means he will shoot 2 from the free throw line.
Yeah, Dolezaj, kind of using that pump fake again, although that's not really what drew the foul. It's just the good ball movement on the inside. Girard getting all the way to the paint a little bit and kicking it out. And so I think the ball movement's been really paramount to Syracuse finding their way into the paint as, they go in and out of the paint. They get guys moving on NC State. Although they're not a zone team on defense, it's easy to shuffle guys up, and that's the way they create space. And both squads are using that ball movement well in order to create that the proper shot selection.
9.5 minutes to go exactly in the first half. There's your score, 22 all inside the dome. Marek Dolezaj at the free throw line. He will shoot 2. The referee's talking about something here. And Kyle, worth noting, DJ Funderburk right now has not come into the game yet for NC State, and you can see him along the sideline. They've shown him a couple times wearing a sweatshirt and sweatpants. So interesting that he's in street clothes. He's not seen in a uniform, and he's the second leading scorer on this NC State team. If you need a guy to step up, it's DJ Funderburk. With the absence of Devin Daniels, we have not seen him yet tonight. Not sure if he will play or not. There was nothing out there as far as an injury goes listed, but again, this is a opportunity for teams to hold things close to their chest. You don't want to give your opposition any kind of competitive advantage. That might be what NC State did here if there is an injury.
Yeah, obviously, that's kind of the thing you see in college sports, holding on to that information to the last second. These guys were probably preparing for Funderburg for sure, knowing that Daniels is injured. So that will help and hurt them for sure, and we'll see who will step up for sure. I'd like to think it's Helms, although Bates and Beverly are having themselves a game on the inside as well.
And it was Dolezaj who hit 1 of 2 at the free throw line. So that means that Syracuse has a 23-22 advantage, 9:06 left to go. And the ball goes out of bounds, last touched by NC State. So Syracuse, it looks like, awarded the possession. Boeheim giving the referee an earful along the left sideline. Everybody seems a little confused, and they reverse the call. NC State now with it. 3-pointer from the right side, swatting it away, was Alan Griffin out of bounds. And now with 9:02 left to play, 2 seconds on the shot clock, NC State is just going to have to chuck one up here. And Boeheim still giving the referee an earful. Helms on the inside, couldn't get one to fall in a shot clock violation. Couldn't even get the shot off in time against NC State. Only had 2 seconds to play with in the orange. That's a fantastic defensive possession. NC State still in a full court press, but the Orange get it up the court with much more ease than they have the last couple of trips. Guerrier at the top of the key, trying to do work on Manny Bates. Fancy dribbling here. Cuts to the inside and just gives it up to Dolezaj on the left wing. Coming to the ball is Alan Griffin. Griffin over to Guerrier in the left corner. A pump fake, a drive, and Guerrier tries to lay it in off the mark. Manny Bates the rebound. Guerrier certainly had a step, just couldn't convert.
Yeah, those are some of the small plays. Like when you get that shot open, you've got to be able to hit it.
And now the Wolfpack take advantage on the other end. Hitting a deep 3 is Thomas Allen, the 6'1", 180-pound guard, redshirt junior, local kid out of Raleigh, North Carolina, right where NC State's campus is located. And now NC State takes a 25-23 lead. That thing was all the way near the sideline along the left wing. That's a deep one, right with Marek Dolezaj in his face. A big shot out of Thomas Allen, and NC State now takes a lead with 8 minutes left to go in the first half, and a foul on the floor against Shaquille Moore as Gerard was dribbling it up the floor. So that means Syracuse now a little bit closer to the bonus. Not quite there, but the Orange just taking advantage of those fouls where you can get them, because if you can get the other team into any kind of foul trouble, that's certainly an advantage for Syracuse. Helms will check out. He seems winded, and now Gerard with it, taking it up the floor. Dolezaj comes and sets a screen. Tight defense here for NC State, but they leave Buddy Boeheim alone in the right corner, and Boeheim converts. 26-25 the lead after a three-pointer out of Buddy Bullseye. 7:45 left to go in the first half, and back and forth we go inside the dome between these two ACC competitors. Manny Bates in the right side. The trap got there quickly. Now Shaquille Moore, a pump fake, pulls up. Deep 2, and this one off the back rim. And now Manny Bates, an offensive rebound, and slams it home. A grown man kind of move by Manny Bates down low, and the Wolfpack take a 1-point lead.
Yeah, that's a real centerish move right there, and if he continues to play like that, they'll have some success tonight.
Dolezaj on the other end of the court. Gerard gets his layup blocked by Manny Bates, and here comes NC State the other end of the court. The layup up and in. Syracuse calls timeout. It was Duran Sheborn who hit it on the other end, and Boeheim wants to talk things over as it's a 5-0 run for NC State after Boeheim hit a deep 3. On the other end, NC State with back-to-back buckets on back-to-back possessions. 29-26 the lead for the Wolfpack, and we're getting late in the first half of action, Marchak. So NC State really having some guys step up here, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, you have to imagine that Jim Boeheim, pleased with his son's performance thus far, 2 for 3 from the three-point line, but I think this is a good timeout to use because right now the defense seriously napping against the efficiency of NC State, really moving the ball well in the paint, and they just continue to be efficient. Their shooting's been fantastic, but really I think their points in the paint will lead them through this game if they continue to play like this.
So we have a couple of comments here that we definitely want to address. Thoughts on Dior, and it's funny, we were actually just talking about this before the broadcast. I was actually a guy that said he was never going to come in the first place. I mean, I think I said as soon as it came out he committed to Syracuse, I said it's just so early. I said I don't think he is ever going to wear an orange jersey. As unfortunate as it is, that's just how the game of college basketball has changed. Kyle, quickly, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly interesting to see. You and I mentioned it before, Story. Really, it's odd to see you and I as young broadcasters that these kids are younger than us now committing to these schools. And really, honestly, back in the day, if we were the same age, that wouldn't be the case. It's really not up until your junior or senior year that you see kids committing. Back in the day, if you see kids committing in their junior year, you're like, wow, that's pretty quick. Now I've seen as young as 10-year-olds talking about verbally committing to Oregon for football and stuff like that. So football is certainly the sport for that type of stuff, but you see it in basketball too. It's definitely an interesting evolution of younger athletes in the sport today.
To say the least, we had a ton of comments here, guys. Keep them coming. Thank you so much for the support and giving us the content to talk about. DJ says that he's out because of university policies. I'm assuming talking about DJ Funderburk. Thank you for that bit of information. I wonder what's going on there. Another one, will Jesse Edwards get a shot if we have foul trouble? I think absolutely, because of what he did a couple weeks ago. I mean, he showed, I believe it was against Miami, that he can be a factor for this Syracuse team. It really comes down to matchups. So that's going to be the big question mark, because Boeheim's going to play who's having the best matchup, and we don't see what happens in practice. He said Jesse Edwards wasn't practicing well. That's why he wasn't getting big minutes. He practiced well. Boeheim gave him another opportunity, and he performed. So I think if Syracuse gets into foul trouble, he's the only guy they have to go to. I think possibly he gets an opportunity regardless, but we'll definitely see what happens. I love the question. That's a fantastic question when you're talking about this basketball game. Edwards had a big performance, Marchak. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Edwards a guy who lacks size at his position, but he's athletic enough to make up for it on the offensive end of the court. And we've seen him do that from game to game, although he's only really had a few games where he has good stretches of minutes, collected together. Of course, not a guy who has huge offensive performances, but efficient enough, as I mentioned, to get by. Certainly that number one guy to replace Dolajai, you could say, in the court, although we've seen some more forwards step in and really no true center in the paint. If there was one guy to replace him other than Edwards, it would, of course, be Guerrier just shifting over defensively. So certainly an interesting standpoint for Syracuse roster-wise.
Yeah, and we're back to basketball here inside the Dome. Great insight, Marchak. And Boeheim pulls up from three, top of the key, off the front rim. No good. Left it just a little bit short. And here's NC State stretching, trying to expand upon their three-point lead. But Alan Griffin just pulls that ball right out of the air, and Girard is fouled on the floor by Cam Hayes. And actually, they're going to instead give it to Sebron, who was also in the area. 6:41 left to go in the first half, and looked like NC State was going to have an opportunity to make it a two-possession ball game. Alan Griffin said no. Here comes Syracuse on the other end of the floor. Dolajai drive, trying to spin, gives it off Girard, left wing three-pointer off the back rim and out, and a rebound here for NC State. Thomas Allen pulls it down, and NC State will try and expand upon this three-point lead. Kick to the left side. Three-pointer is up and good. A 6-point advantage now for NC State. And hitting that from the left corner was Shaquille Moore. He's having himself a game. He's out of Greensboro, North Carolina. That's the thing you see with some of these ACC teams. Guys from right around the area reaching out for a steal now is Sebron, dunking it home on the other end. And Jim Boeheim might want to talk things over. 34-26 the lead for NC State. He does not elect to call a timeout, but this momentum has fallen in favor of the Wolfpack, to say the least. Girard, deep three early in the shot clock, off the front rim, no good. Guerrier pulls down an offensive board, can't get it to go, missed it completely, pulled down another, trying to get it home, no good again. Guerrier can't pull it down, and NC State goes the other way. The Orange had 3 chances there, Marchak.
Yeah, they cannot get the lid off the bucket. The least you can say is at least they're getting the rebounds, which I think is one big thing for Syracuse to get tonight, although that's not going to help them get the scoring opportunities. Guerrier is going to have to perform better than that.
Look at this ball movement by NC State. Shaquille Moore from the same spot he hit just moments ago. Couldn't convert that time. Syracuse pulls down the rebound and a foul on the floor. Instead, it is called a travel against Alan Griffin, the Illinois transfer. And the Orange just cannot get the lid off the bucket, nor can they seem to get anything going right now offensively. How about Sebron off the bench right now for NC State, giving some explosive plays, and really there's 7 points off the bench right now for the Wolfpack, 0 for Syracuse. Those bench points are going to play a factor when your star player is not on the team.
Absolutely. I mean, I really think that wherever Syracuse goes, they're going to run into depth issues. I think, other than Edwards, who honestly isn't even that big of a spark off the bench for Syracuse, we only have 3 guys, Kadary Richmond, Robert Braswell, and the other one's slipping my mind, but I'm sure it'll come to me in a sec. So that depth is certainly going to be an issue because we really have no true sparks off the bench.
Another turnover here for NC State. Pulling it away was Alan Griffin. You have Kadary Richmond back in the game. And Alan Griffin, top of the key, pulls up from 3, and he hits. That's a big shot out of Alan Griffin. Got the steal on one end of the court. And again, offense to defense for the Illinois transfer. Hit that one from downtown. 34 to 28, your score inside the dome. Still a 2-possession ball game. 4:21 left to go in the first half. 3-pointer here from the right wing off the mark. Left all alone with Shaquille Moore. Jesse Edwards in the game now for Syracuse. And here's Alan Griffin at the top of the key, tightly guarded now by a couple of guys. Tries to get away from the defenders, gives it off to Kadary Richmond now, who's running the point for Syracuse. Edwards comes up to set a screen for Kadary Richmond. Richmond a spin move, gives it off to Boeheim. Boeheim dribbles behind his back, drive to the inside, spin move, pops jumper, left short off the front rim, and a rebound down low by Manny Bates. Braxton Beverly kicks it up the court. A great drive to the inside and a lay-in for Shaquille Moore. That's a big bucket down low for the freshman out of Greensboro, North Carolina, Marchak.
Yeah, he had that ball on a string and a great finish to the inside. Really, Syracuse looking lackadaisical on defense, giving them the space and allowing them the space to really create better shot opportunities. NC State, not so much.
Syracuse turns it over down low. NC State now has a 36 to 28 lead by 8 points over Syracuse right now with 3:15 left to go in the first half. Manny Bates down low, left all alone, and it's a 10-point lead for the Wolfpack with 3 minutes left to go in half number 1. What a series of events for NC State. They've taken over this basketball game on Jim Boeheim's court.
Yeah, Griffin, really the only consistency for Syracuse tonight.
Griffin a drive to the inside. He lost it. Manny Bates gets the steal, gives it off to Braxton Beverly, who's running the point now at the 1 spot for NC State. 3-pointer from the right side, off the mark. Bates isn't able to put the putback dunk home, and Kadary Richmond able to get the rebound. Boeheim, deep 3, top of the key, off the back rim and out. Jesse Edwards pulls down the offensive rebound, and will get a stoppage of play. Looks like possibly a foul off the ball, and Mr. Boeheim doesn't look too happy. Marchak, one thing I've noticed this year, and it's probably because of 2020, must be no fans, everything like that. Coaches always wore suits. Boeheim always wore a suit and tie. Coaches always wore a suit and tie for every game, the entire coaching staff. This year, every coaching staff is wearing their comfortable jumpsuits. Boeheim wearing some sweatpants and has a nice zip up featured in every single game. But definitely interesting that the suits are no longer, as we'll get a stoppage of play, a TV timeout here, but it's a big lead for NC State.
Yeah, well, perhaps throwing on those suits will give Syracuse a more professional look, and that'll help them get a spark on defense, because right now they look like they're really asleep out there, perhaps too comfortable if you want to get technical with what they're wearing. Syracuse really needs that spark defensively, and I really think maybe taking the time to talk to Merrick Dolezaj on the bench will help. but certainly putting in Edwards will not help the situation. I think he has a mismatch to begin with on the inside, not to mention guys like Griffin and Braswell who aren't helping him. There's no help defense, and that's really kind of the key for the 2-3 zone is when there's kind of a mismatch or a guy caught in between two guys in the paint, you need to have that help defense in there. And usually we have three guys back there, but with the ball movement at NC State, they're kind of pushing them all up towards the top of the key, and then Edwards is left all alone with a huge mismatch. I've said mismatch 20 times, but really you're going to see that 20 more times tonight if Edwards stays in the court. A guy who usually defensively maybe can hold his own. He is tall at his position, but lacks, the basic strength and size to hold his own over long stretches of minutes. So certainly a lot of developing to do, both, schematically for defense and just physically.
Well, Syracuse fans have heard that for years. Oh, we have to develop a big man. And Marchak, to be quite honest, it hasn't happened. Now, Brahma Sidibe was supposed to have a big year this year, has not played since the 4-minute mark of game number 1. For Syracuse against Bryant. Had a torn meniscus. They thought he would be on the court a lot earlier than he has been and has not yet taken the court so far after that 4-minute mark injury in game number 1. So he has not played the entire year for Syracuse. They're hoping to have him back after a month, but that did not play out the way that they were hoping it would. And we have some more comments here to address. Love it, guys. Keep it coming. DJ says, happened. I think what he's trying to say is it happened 1 hour before the game is what I'm trying to interpret here. And I think he's talking about the breaking of the university policies here by DJ Funderburg. So interesting. I'll try and get some info on that at halftime. Appreciate it, DJ. And then Michael says, thank you for doing this, guys. We really need Buddy Boeheim to catch fire. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you so much. It means a lot, Michael. Boeheim to catch fire. Yeah, I mean, Syracuse has to look on him. It's unfortunate that Girard and Boeheim caught COVID because really I feel like they have not played to their potential so far this year, Marchak. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think Michael has a great point. We need not just Buddy, but really anyone in our backcourt duo to catch fire. Two guys that just, if you're a basketball fan, should be one of our leaders in scoring. Obviously with guys like Griffin and Guerrier, really dynamic at their forward position, they can tend to be leading scorers. You see it. Just a really generic comparison, but you see it generally with guys who are athletic forwards like LeBron James. Of course, he's going to be a leading scorer, but otherwise, if you turn to teams who have successful guards like Luka Doncic, of course, he's going to be a leading scorer, and we don't have that dynamic athleticism for our backcourt duo.
Absolutely, Marchak, and we're back to basketball here inside the Dome once again. 38-28 is the lead for NC State, keeping Syracuse in check offensively. Richmond a drive to the inside, a floater from the ACC logo with hands in his face. He gets it to go. So a big play out of the freshman, and when Syracuse desperately needed a bucket out of the timeout, Kadary Richmond responds for the Orange, and now they find themselves down just 8 with 2 minutes exactly left to go in half number 1. Deep three-pointer here for the Wolfpack off the mark. Manny Bates couldn't dunk it home on the putback, but he is fouled. So Manny Bates will shoot 2 from the free throw line and tack another foul on the board for Quincy Guerrier.
Yeah, I think one of my keys to the game for Syracuse is definitely staying out of foul trouble. So it's not good to see that, starting early. Usually Dolezaj, a guy who, of course, if he gets into foul trouble, is certainly a problem for Syracuse, lacking depth at the center position. The same can be said for Quincy Guerrier as well.
Now, Bates hits 1 of 2 at the free throw line. I don't think we've seen anybody hit 2 for 2 from the charity stripe so far tonight. NC State stretches it to a 9-point lead. Dolezaj on the inside lets a floater go wide open. He hits. So now 39-32, a 7-point ball game off the feed from the freshman Kadary Richmond. 1:40 left on the clock here inside the Dome, half number 1. NC State looking for their first field goal out of the timeout, but they turn it over on the inside. Helms wasn't ready for the pass. Dolezaj gets it, trying to go coast to coast, and he gets it tipped away. Will stay on this end of the court. It looks like it was last touched by Braxton Beverly. The referees talking about it, conversing. Checking into the ball game right now for NC State. Coming out of the ball game, rather, is Cam Hayes and Darian Sebron checking in. Boeheim, three-pointer from the right wing. Off the mark, no good. Alan Griffin couldn't pull down the rebound. Instead, it's Manny Bates going the other way. 1:20 left to go in the first half, and this ball is poked away by the Orange. Out of bounds it goes. Will stay on this end. Last touched, it looks like, by Alan Griffin. Manny Bates was in the area, and he was the last that had it for NC State, but will stay on this end. Sebron on one end. Now Braxton Beverly swinging out on the other. Back to Sebron, left corner. Three-pointer is good. When you leave him that open, Marchak, he's going to hit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that 2-3 zone is going to have to make some schematic changes because really they're leaving guys open all over the place.
Kadary Richmond, the freshman on the other end, a spin move, a contested layup, and he hits for Syracuse. He's been the answer down the stretch of the first half when they need a bucket. 42-34, your score. 45 seconds left to play in half number one. NC State leads it by 8. Kicked to the inside. Helms lost it for a second, was trying to find Bates. Dolezaj poked it away, but they'll call a foul against Dolezaj. Again, Marchak, you don't need these tic-tac fouls on the floor. It looked like Dolezaj was just trying to get a hand in there. Nonetheless, the referees blow the whistle.
Yeah, I mean, you can always appreciate the aggression, which really we don't lack that often defensively. But again, that really turns into tic-tac fouls that we don't need, just as you just said. So those small fouls down the stretch can really hurt, as foul trouble, as I mentioned, has certainly been a problem at the center and really the 4 spot as well, position for Syracuse. And that's been a narrative for many years now for Syracuse.
Jericho Helms at the free throw line. He is the first guy tonight to hit 2 for 2. So 44-34 is the lead now for NC State as they will take a timeout. 40.3 left to go in the first half. Syracuse trailing now by 10 points at this point to the NC State Wolfpack. Kevin Keats, head coach of NC State in year number 4, wanted a timeout, and both teams will head to the sidelines to talk things over here. Marchak, if you're Syracuse, what are you trying to do in these last 40 seconds?
Well, I mean, coming into the next half for sure, one thing is the defensive changes will have to come. One thing I've definitely noticed is with the 2-3 zone, guys who are dynamic and are locked in kind of stay on the guys that they're supposed to and shift correctly at the right time. One guy that I think I see, part of the problem for the points being scored in the paint and then also the wing shots getting open for NC State is Alan Griffin, a guy who generally speaking usually is all the way there. Of course, he always is on the offensive end of the court, being our second leading scorer, but defensively, I see him biting on the ball movement a lot. And so when they kick the ball to the opposite wing of him or to the paint, he usually isn't there to help that defense in the inside. And we certainly need all of that with smaller guys like Marek Dolezaj at their position.
Now, Dolezaj, the man to inbound it for Syracuse. NC State still in that man full court press. Not as much pressure as they were generating at the beginning of the game. Kadary Richmond going at it, tries to get to the 10, and he's fouled. Going coast to coast is Kadary Richmond, and he's fouled down low, so he'll shoot 2 from the free throw line, try and make it an 8-point game with 31 seconds left on the clock, 31.8 to be exact. Richmond's 2 for 2 from the field, has 4 points tonight. First free throws up and nothing but net for the freshman, and Marchak, he's been a big part of this team this year.
Yeah, certainly one of our best sparks off the bench, if not the best, and really has been called for to start many times. So that really tells you how well-rounded and skilled this kid is. Certainly the better scorer of the point guards we have, but again, he struggles defensively and schematically. You can see him out of place sometimes, and that's something you can see with younger faces like him. So some changes to make down the stretch, but Kadary Richmond, super fun to watch off the bench.
Absolutely. He leads the ACC in steals, so he does some things right defensively. As Dolezaj stretches out for another steal, but they're able to get it back. Sebron with it. Pass up the court. Manny Bates slams it home, and the foul. So NC State is taking over the ball game just when you think Syracuse has a gasp of fresh air. The Wolfpack are right there, and Manny Bates is mainly the guy to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the ball movement's really been elite for NC State all night. And really, of all the teams to beat Syracuse, NC State is a team that kind of makes sense because of their ball movement. All squads who have fantastic ball movement and spread the wealth offensively usually have success against Syracuse because of that 2-3 zone. Again, we've focused before on exactly what the 2-3 zone is for as an official review pops up. And sometimes, teams who can kick the ball in and out of the paint and out to the arc certainly give us a chance to not really convert offensively.
I couldn't agree with you more, Marchak. 17.8 to go, and Manny Bates hits the free throw. So the largest lead of the night is now up to 11 for NC State, as Manny Bates will check out of the ball game for the final 17.8 seconds here, and Syracuse will just try and get one more bucket. I'm sure they'll hold it for the final shot. Richmond back into the game at the point guard position. Joe's there as well. And Kadary Richmond with the ball. Alan Griffin, Guerrier, and Dolezaj Drive for Richmond, and he puts it off the glass and in, and that will do it for half number one, beating the clock by about 2 seconds. So Richmond finally puts something on the board for Syracuse here, but it's a 9-point lead going into the locker room, 47-38 for NC State. And what a performance out of this team. Syracuse has been pretty good defensively this year. NC State has dropped nearly 50 points on them in half number one.
Oh, yeah, I think this will be a high-scoring game either way for both squads, but NC State, the ball movement just so elite, and we've seen it for Syracuse. When they spread the wealth, they certainly have success. And they're not doing that as much as they want to tonight, although you could say that there's not one dude who is top-heavy scoring-wise. Guerrier has been a little bit quiet tonight, and he's our leading scorer. Meanwhile, Griffin has been fantastic on the offensive end of the court, and I'd like to argue that he hasn't on the defensive end. And then for NC State, you really can't think of just one guy who's been good. Beverly, perhaps the best defensive effort, but otherwise, everyone's having a great effort on the offensive end of the court and the defensive end of the court. Bates has done his job, and he's really scored on the inside as well. So NC State, super fun team to watch, and they really can kick that ball in and out from the wings and, really roll off that high screen too. Just so many different threats.
Absolutely. We'll take a look now at the remainder of the comments here before we give you our box score look. And we'll take a quick break for halftime. So just a couple minutes left here with us, and we'll take a halftime break. And then we'll be back, of course, for the second half of action. Now we got another one, actually all three of them from Michael. He says, you don't need so many threes. Good offense breeds winning, not ill-advised three-pointers. Marchak, we've been saying that all year, right? These early in shot clock with 5 seconds ticked off the clock, these three-pointers. And I will say, I don't think we've seen many of those tonight, maybe just one out of Girard. It hasn't been as bad tonight as far as shot selection goes. They're taking some open shots. But again, I'd agree that you'd love to see the ball get to the inside.
Yeah, I think shot selection, if I could put that in the keys to the game for Syracuse every night, I would. But really, I try and vary it as much as possible. But really, that's one of the main keys. And tonight, their shot selection has actually been pretty decent, which tells you just how good the defense of NC State is, because obviously Syracuse not nearly as efficient in the offensive end of the court as NC State thus far. So that tells you a lot of really just how well-rounded and aggressive their defense is, while bordering that line of foul trouble to just being elite at defense. So NC State super sharp, as I mentioned. And, on the opposite end, Syracuse a little lackadaisical, giving NC State the shot selection that they want and creating space is what NC State has been doing, and they've done it well.
Absolutely. They're finding a lot of wide open three-pointers, just picking apart the three zone of Syracuse. Michael also says it was just a 3-point lead for NC State, and it's bad offense. Yeah, I mean, I would say for Syracuse more so than bad offense, because they still have 38 points up on the board at this point. I mean, that's not anything terrible. I'd make the argument that it is actually bad defense right now for Syracuse that's costing them the game. If you can score 38 points in a half, if you're SU, you should be in a decent spot at this point, not finding yourself down 9. I think it's inexcusable to allow nearly 47 to be exact, on the other end of the court.
Yeah, well said. I really don't think there's that much to add on to it. Syracuse has not been sharp on defense. You see mismatches on the inside no matter what, especially with guys who lack size at their position like Dolezaj, and then guys who aren't helping in the paint like Alan Griffin, who bites in the bait of the ball being moved out to the top of the key, and that creates the space that they want in order to succeed on the inside, which is what they've done all night.
And Michael agrees with you, Marchak, as he adds another comment in here. And then one more here. Our guys need confidence. They seem to play down to their competition. It's funny you say that, because my dad has been saying that for years, as far as I can remember. No matter if it's football or basketball, he always says, Syracuse plays down to their competition or plays up to their competition. They show up and they beat Duke. They show up and they beat Clemson or whatever, and then they can't beat, a team that really, I'm not saying NC State's a bad team, but they're coming into this 7-5, 3-5 in the ACC, and they're without their star player. I mean, this is a tough situation when you really look at it for Syracuse. This should have been a game that Syracuse could have handled fairly well. Kind of the same situation where they lost to a Pittsburgh team that was without their star in Justin Champagnie, and then Champagnie comes back for game number 2 against the Panthers, and they blow Syracuse out of the water.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, simply put, Syracuse, I think Michael is absolutely right. They do play down and up to their competition. You see it as low as varsity sports and all the way up to professional sports. I've seen it personally, and it's very frustrating as both an athlete and a leader on teams that I've played on. I can't say I've done it too much, But you see it just with kids who lack confidence, whether it's the youth of the squad, whether it's, other issues, maybe a lack of chemistry, whatever it may be. Syracuse is a squad that I think Michael is absolutely correct about. They play down to their competition far too often, because you've seen it many years, and I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. They've beat top 10 teams 3 times in 1 year and then lose to teams that were far away from being ranked. As a matter of fact, they might have been losing teams. It's hard to recall exactly what year and what teams those were, but I can certainly recall that very vividly in 2016, 2015, when we've missed the NCAA tournament. So certainly some struggles for Syracuse. And you have to imagine exactly what Boeheim is trying to instill in them, because for years now, it seems like they do lack that fundamental confidence in order to succeed on a consistent basis.
Absolutely, Marchak. Now, let's head over to the box score and break things down a little bit here. First, let's take a look at NC State. Break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they've just been more efficient in the shooting. If you look at it, they're 56.7% from the field as opposed to our 45%. I think that kind of speaks for itself. And for NC State, obviously, Bates has been one of the leading scorers. They've also had a good spark off the bench. 5 points for Moore, 7 for C. Brown, who's been really fun to watch, super dynamic at his position. 3 for Allen. Of course, Beverly's been good on defense, but he has 9 points as well. 1 point for Hayes, who's been a little bit quiet thus far. Of course, you have Bates and Helms, both above 10 points, 10 exactly for Helms, and Manny Bates with 12. So he's looked really sharp, not to mention his 9 rebounds. So he's a guy who's certainly a double-double machine.
Yeah, if you're a Wolfpack fan and you're seeing this game right now, you might not be as scared about the absence of Devin Daniels, because this Wolfpack team is scoring the basketball and playing fantastic defense. And down low, Bates is having himself a fantastic game. Look at this guy. Almost a double-double in the first half, 12 points and 9 rebounds. That 9 rebounds is mind-blowing for me right now.
Yeah, I mean, that equals the amount of rebounds that our leader, who's almost a double-double per game, mind you, not in one half, Quincy Guerrier has. Of course, he only has 4 rebounds and 2 points, which you'll get into in a sec.
Yeah, and you brought us into it, so a great transition. We'll talk about Syracuse real quick. The Orange, 38 points right now. Guerrier, 2 points, 4 rebounds. He's 1 for 5 from the field, 0 for 1 from 3, so his struggles have been apparent. Missed a couple of close ones down low where he just couldn't really get it to hit. Alan Griffin leads the way now, 10 points. He's 3 for 6 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3. Also has 2 rebounds and an assist. Dolezaj, 7 points, 3 for 3 from the field, and 4 rebounds and 3 assists. So Dolezaj really having a good game. Hasn't missed a shot so far. Love to get him going a little bit more, but he's been in a little bit of early foul trouble here. Gerard with 5 points, 2 for 6 from the field, 1 for 3 from deep. 1 rebound, 2 assists, and then Boeheim with 6 points, 2 for 8 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3. Boeheim has really struggled here a little bit in the first half, 2 rebounds and 2 assists. Love to see him get going. That's it for the starters. Now off the bench, they're only playing 2 guys for a few minutes here. Kadary Richmond, 8 points, 3 for 3 from the field, 1 rebound, 1 assist. He's had himself a nice couple of minutes, and Jesse Edwards actually had 0 stats off the bench. So the Orange are shooting 43.3% in comparison to, as Marchak said, 56.7% for NC State from the field. I mean, they're just not missing right now, and Syracuse has to tighten things up defensively. Both teams fairly even from 3. NC State 40%, 38.5% from Syracuse. The difference, NC State's three-pointers have been with a lot more free space to shoot the ball. So that concludes things for the first half of action here and the halftime wrap-up on Orange Sheet. Marchak, your final thoughts?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before. Defensively, they're going to have to make some schematic changes. Griffin, who undeniably is going to be a guy that's going to stay on the court, I think, for perhaps the entire half. He really has a great engine, and he could be the engine of this team, leading Syracuse back to within a close game against NC State. But you have to imagine that's not likely if NC State continues the ball movement that they're putting on right now. Certainly a good show. So you have to imagine NC State offensively not going to make many changes. So Syracuse is going to have to prepare for the same type of offense they just saw in the second half. Boeheim, a guy who can certainly do that. I think our backcourt has done well defensively, and so it's the towards the paint that we're going to have to make some changes. Griffin, a guy who's biting on that bait of the ball at the top of the key and then leaves that wing and the paint open, creating mismatches on the inside, which we'll have every time for guys like Dolezaj and Edwards who aren't really big enough at their position.
There's top-notch analysis from my man, Kyle Marchak, as always. That's why he's a big part of the show, and I love to have you here again, buddy. We missed you the other night against Virginia. Marchak's a busy man with his working and his training as well, so we love to steal him when we can. So thanks again for being here, buddy.
Appreciate it, man. I love this production.
Of course. So that does it for the first half of action inside the Dome. We'll take a very quick break because we've probably taken a lot of the time as the teams headed to the locker room, and I'm sure we'll be back to basketball in just a couple of minutes. So don't go anywhere. Go ahead and get your drink and your popcorn because the Orange are gearing up for possibly a nice comeback in the second half. But in the meantime, NC State leads it 47-38 at half over Syracuse. It's NC State and Syracuse. It's ACC college basketball, and it's right here on Orange Sheet. Welcome back here on Orange Heat as Syracuse and NC State doing battle inside the Carrier Dome. But it's a big lead for NC State by a margin of 9 right now. 47-38 is your score as we're just moments away from tip-off. In the second half of action, Giovanni Heater with you alongside Kyle Marchak, your broadcast team for tonight. As always, Marchak, we got ourselves a game. NC State pulling ahead. The defense is what needs to improve for Syracuse. What's the key for the Orange right now as we begin play in the second half?
Well, obviously, defensively, I mentioned it before, Griffin's going to have to make some changes, getting the help on the inside, but really just staying tighter on NC State, not allowing those wing shots and the points in the paint, and really just defensive effort in general will be huge because they give up so many second half points. So to already be at a deficit will be huge for NC State. That's certainly going to be a confidence factor for them tonight.
Here's Guerrier, a drive to the inside, gets the tough layup to fall, and that's what the difference was in half number one. A couple of opportunities down low, and the Orange missed some layups. And now Guerrier with a tough one here. Look for him to take over this game for Syracuse if they want to make a comeback here. Now down 7, 47-40 is your score, and we're just about 45 seconds into play in the second half. NC State having a little bit of trouble with the zone. They finally get some penetration on the inside. A two-pointer off the mark, no good. Teams diving at it to pull down a rebound. Alan Griffin on the floor, as well as some Wolfpack defenders. And we'll see where this ball is awarded. It was Jericho Helms who couldn't hit the jumper from the free throw line, and it looks like Alan Griffin was the first to the ball. Taking a look at the replay here, Marchak, Helms was left fairly alone in that zone. No foul there. And both teams just going for it. It will stay NC State. So the Orange are not able to catch a break here, and Gerard nearly fouls going for the ball up on Cam Hayes. NC State with it, 14 seconds left on the shot clock. Now down to 12. Wolfpack trying to do something with it here. Braxton Beverly along the left wing. Coming to set a screen is Helms. Beverly's got 4 seconds. Now down to 3. Now down to 2. Helms just trying to chuck one up from the ACC logo. A fadeaway deep 2, and he hits. NC State back to a 9-point advantage with 18 and a half to play, and the Wolfpack just cannot miss, carrying what happened in half number 1 now over to half number 2. The Wolfpack moving the ball here, and instead it's Syracuse with a bucket on the inside. Quincy Guerrier, once again, I apologize for missing a moment. I have a projector going on, and it actually cut out for a second here with the signal. Alan Griffin a steal, and he gets it off to Boeheim, puts it up and in, but they will say it looks like a travel against Alan Griffin, as instead of going up with it, he tried to pass it back to Boeheim, and that was a mistake by Alan Griffin.
Yeah, I think he got stuffed a little bit defensively, and that's certainly going to hinder his ability to get that ball up and in, as he's really quick to the basket, so only has moments to think. And yeah, it looked like the ball popped out of his hands a little bit, so it was an opportunity for him to come back down with the balls that was swatted a little bit from Hayes from behind. It's tough for me to tell exactly who got to that ball. So Syracuse is going to have to make some offensive changes. And right now, I think Guerrier is going to be that guy on the inside, and he's certainly posting up a lot. He really wants that ball.
And here's Guerrier again, doing work down low, going up against Helms, off the back rim, and now Alan Griffin, offensive rebound, right wing three-pointer, Gerard, off the front rim, no good. Dolajai pulls it down, back to Gerard, a pump fake. Helms closes it on him, and then back to Boeheim, top of the key. The Orange now with 13 seconds to work with in the shot clock, 17:43 on the game clock, 49-42 is your score. Gerard unloads a deep 3, and it's off the back rim, no good. Rebounded here by Manny Bates, and the Orange with a little bit of excitement there, getting my cardio in once again. Inside, it's Helms with it, and he's fouled. Looks like we lost Marchak for a moment, so we should have Marchak back momentarily, and of course I'll cover Marchak. Hopefully the connection comes back. We lost him for the time being. The Orange now trailing to NC State 49-42. 17:28 left to go in the first half. Braxton Beverly an inbound, top of the key, and they get it all the way past half court into Cam Hayes, running the point guard position for the Wolfpack. And the zone has been productive a little bit more in the second half for Syracuse. Helms, no wide open shot here. Beverly now a drive, kissing it off the glass. Braxton Beverly, a big time bucket for the NC State Wolfpack. And it's back to a 9-point lead, 51-42, 17:01 left to go here in the second half. Alan Griffin right side. He'll have a drive. Gives it off to Gary. Now to Dolezaj off the glass and in. Syracuse needed a bucket there, and they got one. 51-44. That's the Orange secret special number there, number 44. 16:41 left to go here in the first half, and we have our man Kyle Marchak back. Marchak, what happened there?
Yeah, the laptop died. I apologize for that. Of course, you and I separated because of COVID, so technical difficulties certainly aplenty. I apologize for that.
No worries, man. No worries. We got you back. Deep three here, unloading from the top of the key off the mark that time for Cam Hayes. And Girard pulls down the rebound. Syracuse inching a little bit closer here to this lead of NC State. A drive by Boeheim, a bucket, a foul, and an and one. Buddy Boeheim, a big shot there for Syracuse as we get a timeout on the floor. 51-46. Boeheim's going to get to shoot one from the charity stripe. Syracuse needed that one there.
Yeah, Boeheim getting the space to drive to his right side, as I mentioned, he obviously favors, and then getting that ball up and in, drawing the foul. Some plays really that we've lacked all night. Boeheim, a guy who obviously doesn't drive a ton, more of a three-point shooter, but when he does, the offensive production certainly gets a little spurt. And we've seen Girard try to drive as well, but he's a guy who lacks size at his position, so he got blocked. Of course, maybe a guy that we wish could get to the inside a little bit more. And, you know, being our leading assist guy, a person who needs to kick that ball out more often.
Boeheim hits the free throw, and just like that, Marchak, we got ourselves a 4-point ball game inside the Carrier Dome. NC State leads it 51-47. Deep three, left corner, off the mark. No good that time for Thomas Allen, and here comes Syracuse, a chance to make it a one-possession ball game. Boeheim right wing, tightly guarded by Allen. Pump fake, he'll do work, driving to the inside, gives it off to Girard right wing. Back to Boeheim, top of the key, three-pointer, off the front rim. No good, and rebounded here by Jericole Helms. NC State gets the ball back. Three-pointer here, left side, off the backboard. No good, but an offensive rebound. Manny Bates, and he puts the second chance bucket home. Shaquille Moore couldn't hit the three, but big man Bates was down low, and he's been such a dominant force for NC State in this ballgame. And I said it going into it, Syracuse could struggle with it.
Yeah, and there's another example of that ball movement working for NC State.
And there's a deep three for Alan Griffin from downtown. As soon as I turn it over to Marchak, exciting things tend to happen here.
Tried to abbreviate that for you.
NC State, I appreciate it. NC State, just a 3-point lead here. The Orange cutting into it big time. 15 minutes left to go in the second half of action. NC State sharing the ball well, but a turnover here. Jericole Helms trying to find Thomas Allen in the right corner. Allen was wide open, but the pass was too much for him to handle. The Orange will get it back. Down 3 with 14:46 left to go on the clock. Timeout here by NC State. Kevin Keats wants to talk things over following the turnover. And the Orange in a one-possession ball game, Marchak. We'll take a look at some of these comments because there's a lot of them coming in. We love when people are just as into the broadcast as we are here. But Syracuse has had a nice performance coming out of the locker room and just sticking with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Syracuse cutting back into it. I've mentioned it before. Boeheim, as good as it gets for coaching, both statistically and just with his players. Obviously, you don't get that much wins without having such a good connection with his players, and he certainly instilled it in them to improve in the second half. Statistically, you've seen it that sometimes they give up more points in the second half, for whatever reason it may be. But right now, defensively, they've made the changes that they need to. They've guarded the wings tightly, and the paint has gotten the help defense that they wanted from guys like Alan Griffin, who certainly gets more blocks down the stretch than in the first half. So you see those changes defensively working for Syracuse right now.
And we have Uncle Lester back here with his talk on his bets that he always places here. And he needs Syracuse to win by 6 today. And Kyle, we'll go back to it. We've said a million times, stop betting on the Orange because they're just too inconsistent here. So more talk here on the bets. He said Marchak has seen enough. I said that I'd cover for you. He said, smart man. He said, Marchak, he doesn't blame you. He wasn't going to make it through the media timeout. But I appreciate here. And he again always appreciates this. I appreciate the support that, he's always tuning in. He's always leaving comments, and it's definitely, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool that SU fans tune in and everything like that. Another one here from Michael Peck, and he says, nice play to start the second half. I mean, we said that again. We couldn't agree more. The Orange have come out. And the biggest thing is, they're doing a little bit well defensively. Manny Bates still had a couple of second chance points that was big for NC State. But the Orange are just finding the right shot, getting it to the inside, letting Guerrier do his work. And they're just making shots. I mean, that's been the difference. The Orange could be a lot more in this game if a couple of layups had fallen that they had missed in half number one. Boeheim actually said it at halftime. He said, we're a high scoring team right now too, if we didn't miss a couple of open layups. So they've done that in half number two. Marchak, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Again, I think it's the defensive problems for Syracuse against NC State, whose ball movement has really created the shot opportunities they want. Whereas Syracuse ball movement, not necessarily as elite, but they've gotten the right shot selection for sure, where that's been a struggle lately. With that being said, it's definitely not an offensive problem, as I mentioned, so Syracuse, a team who really just hasn't executed as much as NC State. Both teams have gotten the shots that they wanted. Both teams have rebounded well, or at least you could say to the extent that they want to. Syracuse, a team who generally struggles with rebounding, although Guerrier has done well in that category. So we'll have to see the defensive changes for Syracuse work in order to stay within this game.
And back to basketball we go. Here's Boeheim, a spin move, a jumper from the HCC logo, and Buddy Bullseye hits. It's a 1-point ball game inside the dome, 14:21 on the clock, and Syracuse has clawed back from down 9 at half to make this a 1-point advantage. NC State 53-52 is your score, 14-11 left, and here come the Wolfpack trying to respond here to this little bit of a Syracuse run. The Wolfpack, 10 seconds on the shot clock to play with here. Braxton Beverly, a pump fake, a drive to the inside. Alan Griffin tipped it away, out of bounds. It will go off the hands, last touched by Griffin. So it'll stay on this end of the court, but NC State will have to shoot with 4 seconds left to go here in the shot clock. To inbound now for the Wolfpack, Shaquille Moore. Trying to find the open guy. Gets it to Manny Bates, but it's too high. Guerrier pulls it down. It's a turnover, and it's a 10-2 run for the Syracuse Orange. Boeheim, a pump fake and a drive on Beverly. Gives it off to Gerard, right wing. Gerard now a drive. Puts up a 2. Rejected by Manny Bates. Out of bounds it goes. Will stay on this end of the court. And Boeheim talking to Gerard. That was not smart, but he was kind of already jumping up in the air and didn't really have a choice. Manny Bates just extending out, just too physical, too tall to block it away.
Yeah, that's a huge mismatch right there. He's going to have to make some changes if he wants to score on the inside.
Alan Griffin, step back 3, almost got it to hit, left it short on the right wing. 1-point game, it'll remain, 13.5 to play. It wasn't meant to be. NC State leads at 53-52. Drive to the inside. Manny Bates, man, he's a physical force, and he's fouled by either Guerrier or Dolezaj. I'm not sure what the call is, but either way, it's not good for Syracuse to get those two in foul trouble, and it will be Dolezaj clearly getting a hand on Manny Bates, and he'll shoot 2 from the free throw line. You don't need those two guys to get into foul trouble. Bates has 14 points tonight, 6 for 6 from the field, and 11 rebounds. He has been dominant, Marchak.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bates, a guy who either makes the shot or draws the foul, and that's why he scores so many points, and he's been so efficient on the inside, literally as efficient as it gets, with obviously 6 field goals is a decent sample size for one half, and then to make all 6 of them says a lot about just how good this kid is on the offensive end of the court.
Bates goes 1 for 2 from the free throw line, and now 13 minutes and 14 seconds left to go here in the second half of action. The Orange find themselves down by 2, but Bates has had a phenomenal performance for NC State. Here's Boeheim, top of the key. The Orange, 10 seconds left on the shot clock to play with here. Boeheim tries to spin, gives it off to Gerard, right wing three-pointer, off the bank, tried to hit from downtown, couldn't get it to go. It was close, but now here comes Braxton Beverly with the shifty ball movement here for NC State. They hold a 2-point lead, and when Syracuse scored electrically, now they find themselves unable to score on back-to-back possessions. Here's Helms, gives it off to the left side. Back to Helms. Jumper from the left elbow off the mark, pulled down by Alan Griffin off the board. And a 2-point ball game. It'll remain 12.5 to play. Here's Boeheim doing work on Braxton Beverly. A spin move, ACC logo jumper. Left it short once again. Up to Beverly, right wing drive. And he'll pull it back out here to slow things down for NC State. Thomas Allen with it at the top of the key. Gerard in his face. Into Manny Bates. He lets a jumper go from the left elbow, and he looked uncomfortable doing so. So able to pull down the board is Quincy Guerrier, and Syracuse still in a 2-point ball game. Back to Dolezaj. Over to Alan Griffin. Tried to go for 3 from the left elbow, and he hits. Alan Griffin takes the lead for Syracuse. I thought it should be a 3. They only put 2 points on the scoreboard, so it's tied ball game, 54 all with 11:40 left to go. Big shot out of Alan Griffin. I thought it was a 3, but it will go down as a 2 for the time
So
being.
did I. That was a deep 2 for sure.
Absolutely here. And now here's NC State trying to respond. Hellam's a drive on Dolezaj, going up, doing work, knowing he's in foul trouble, couldn't hit, but right there with an offensive rebound and a putback was your man Manny Bates. 12 rebounds, a career high. Marchak, we still have 11 and a half minutes to go here in the second half. The guy's already got beyond a double-double. Here's Guerrier on the inside, up on Bates, off the glass and in. 56 all. Both big men going back and forth. Under 11 minutes to play, 10:57 on the clock, and NC State and Syracuse. Heavyweight fights, knockout punches back and forth. Who will get the final KO is the question mark as we reach into the second half of the second half, quarter number 4.
Yeah, I love that analogy right there, and it's really the best way to put it because both big men really ruling the court offensively and defensively right now.
And it's Bates on the inside. Couldn't hit that time. Pulling down the rebound for Syracuse was Alan Griffin, and it's Gerard on the right wing. Pass to the inside. Guerrier cutting to the tin and getting the layup to fall. Quincy Guerrier stepping over his opponent, and the Orange with their first lead in this ball game since the 7:27 mark in the first half. 58-56. 10:15 to go, and Kevin Keats wants to talk things over with this Wolfpack squad. What a turn of events we've experienced here, and a great feed to the inside as Guerrier went and put it in. A 2-point lead for the Orange Marchak, and now they have everything going offensively and defensively.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy just how much this game has drastically changed offensively and defensively, And really that's due to, the trial and errors of Syracuse's defense. Now that the defense has looked a little bit sharper and they've hindered maybe not Bates, but other guys on the offensive end of the court for NC State a little bit more. They've clawed their way all the way back. And this is really at the halftime, NC State with a 77% probability of winning, all the way back down to the favor of Syracuse in 62%. If that doesn't tell you how much of a roller coaster this game has been just this far, I don't know what was. So this game has been back and forth, and really maybe a few runs for both teams, but otherwise just a tennis match.
I like to keep things completely PG here on Orange Heat, but I think Michael Peck sums it up very well here as an SU fan with LFG. Now, if you don't know what that means, you should look it up. But as a Cuse fan sitting here, I think, Marchak, we can both agree like LFG and like what a turn of
if you know, you know.
Syracuse. If you know, you know. But the Orange with a big swing going the other way. Able to get some defensive stops and able to hit offensively a couple of big threes. And it's really been points down low. And Marchak, we called upon him at halftime. We said Guerrier is going to have to be the difference for Syracuse if they want to come back down 9 at half after 20 minutes of play. And he's done just that.
Yeah, I think Guerrier, the guy who needed to get that spark for the team after halftime, he's been quiet for sure. I mentioned it briefly, but really hadn't remarked to it as much as I should have because honestly, Griffin, a guy who wasn't as quiet offensively today, he's our second leading scorer, so you can expect him to take over at times offensively. Defensively, I mentioned the changes he'll have to make, but that's besides the point. Guerrier, a guy who's been quiet up until this half. And he's our leading scorer and rebounder. He's been quiet in both categories, as I mentioned. And now to see him kind of round his game out and explode offensively, certainly necessary for Syracuse in order to walk away with the win.
And the Orange now a 2-point lead over NC State. 10:15 left to go on the clock. The Orange lead at 58-56 as the comments continue to flood in. Keep them coming, people. But Syracuse, I think it's funny because when Syracuse starts winning and it gets to like the second half towards the end of a game, more people tune into the broadcast because we can see how many people are tuned in, and the numbers continue to rise when Syracuse does better. So again, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Syracuse with a lead right now over nonetheless NC State. And NC State's had the better of Syracuse. In the last 3 years, they've won the last 3 matchups between these two teams. 3 years in a row, NC State has taken down Syracuse, and another heavyweight fight tonight. Marchak, we use the analogy. We got a heavyweight bout. The big men are doing battle down low, and punch for punch, they're responding haymaker after haymaker. But who will deliver that final knockout is the question here, as we have a 2-point ball game. 58-56 is the lead for Syracuse. 10:15 on the clock in the second half, and NC State has the ball to inbound here. The final knockout, that's the question as we reach the end of this game inside the Carrier Dome. Braxton Beverly at the top of the key, playing the point position once again for the Wolfpack. He's yet to come off the floor pretty much so far tonight. Here's Helms, and we'll see what Keats was able to draw up along the sideline. It's really going to become a coaching fight here, too, in the final minutes of the game. Braxton Beverly, a tough take to the rim, almost got it to go. That would have been one heck of a play. Last touched by Syracuse, and we'll stay on this end of the court. NC State will also get a fresh 20, and another timeout is called here on the floor with 9:51 left to go. Both teams wanting to talk things over once again, Marchak. So NC State, Kevin Keats obviously trying to draw something up here for this Wolfpack squad to respond to Syracuse. They almost had a good response there, but the Orange held their own. NC State gets another free possession, though, with 20 seconds on the shot clock.
Yeah, I think small plays like that usually are a problem for Syracuse, giving up tipped away balls, fouls, and stuff like that. They've been a little bit better with that tonight, but it's a shame for them to be in the middle of a stretch right now where they're scoring and then give up a play like that, although they did have a good defensive stand against Beverly, who has that ball in a string. And I think that's one point you can remark, too, is Beverly, the shortest guy in the court, not just in NC State, but the shortest period. You would think that Joe Girard can make a mark for that at 6'1", but Beverly listed at perhaps a really short 6 foot, but still has that ball on a string and can still create opportunities in the inside, although that hasn't been a plenty for him. And I think that proves well that Girard can do the same thing down the stretch. So we'll see if that develops as the season goes on, if not in this game. That's certainly something that the backcourt duo for Syracuse could use, as I've mentioned before, not necessarily the strongest offensively.
Yeah, Michael says keep getting in the paint and get Bates to foul. I think if you're Syracuse, that's a great strategy. Because, I mean, he's been such a factor in this game. We couldn't agree with you more there, Michael. Dom says hi, and Dom's like a little cousin to me. So, Dom, appreciate you tuning in. As always, the Orange now still a 2-point lead over NC State. The Wolfpack will get the ball back here with 20 seconds on a fresh shot clock. Well, fresh, 20 seconds on it. They don't reset it all the way anymore. They give you 20 instead of 30, which is interesting, a recent rule change in the last couple of years. Now let's take a look at some of the box score things here. Syracuse has struggled rebounding the entire year. That's been the Achilles heel of this team, and it's no wonder when you don't have a real center in the game. Rebounding so far tonight, NC State has 27, Syracuse has 25. So against a good team with a big man down low, don't get me wrong, Bates is having himself a fantastic game. 17 points, 13 rebounds. I mean, that is the best performance I've seen all year so far out of a big man numbers-wise. But the Orange are holding their own, only down in the rebounding category by 2.
Yeah, I think we bashed defensively really what Syracuse has done with their big men. Obviously, rebounding will always be a problem offensively and defensively, generally speaking, but really just with the size difference and stuff like that. But really, if you look at it in recent games, we had that huge win against VTech, who's a ranked squad and still is. And Keve Aluma was supposed to be probably the best performance we were supposed to see out of a big man all year, except for perhaps, of course, Bates right now. And he was very quiet. You know, he got into early foul trouble, and you mentioned it before, he just didn't perform up to par. And so that was certainly a big question mark, as he's coming off a huge game against Virginia to come over, topple over one of the best teams in the ACC, if not the best. And right now, Syracuse proving that defensively, they can still hold on against some of the better centers who are having good performances, although Bates is trying to stay otherwise tonight.
Yes, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And Bates is having one great game. Keve Aluma dropped 29 against Virginia last night in that matchup. And here's Bates again, trying to go up to the tin. Off the mark, no good. Alan Griffin trying to get the rebound for Syracuse and secure it. And we'll head to this end. A foul down low. It looks like it might go against Bates. 9:41 on the clock. Syracuse leads it by 2, and Bates was unable to hit from the inside. So the Orange catch a little bit of a break there. Manny Bates has 3 fouls for NC State. You only get 5. And here's Dolezaj doing work right on Manny Bates. Try to get some penetration. Now it's up to Kadari Richmond along the left side off a feed from Boeheim. Richmond here, off to Dolezaj. A jumper from the right elbow, rattled around, almost hit. And a rebound by De'Aaron Sebron. NC State takes it the other way. That would have been a big shot for Syracuse to make it a 2-possession ball game, and it was this close. Manny Bates on the inside, kick out to the top of the key. NC State moving the ball well. Braxton Beverly, a cut, a feed to the interior, and an and one bucket. Jericole Helms, a grown man type of play, the foul and the hoop, as he'll take a chance to get a 1-point lead at the free throw line.
Yeah, Dolezaj trying to come in to help on that defense. Of course, Griffin kind of at a size difference right there against Helms, and Dolezaj drawing the foul. So a big play by Helms up and in. I mean, that's just fantastic as it get, and really utilizing his reach as much as possible in that play. So this is a back and forth game. Syracuse down by 1. Let's see if they make any offensive changes here.
And the free throw is good at the free throw line for Helms. It's a 1-point lead now again for NC State. 59-58, 8:47 left to go here on the clock. SU needs a response. Here's Alan Griffin pulling up deep 3, top of the key, rattled around, no good. And that was early in the shot clock, Marchak. I don't know if Syracuse needed that, but Alan Griffin felt like he had the hot hand. Other end of the court, 3-pointer, off the mark here. Offensive rebound for Helms and a fresh 20 for NC State. Thomas Allen was the man who couldn't hit, but now they have 13 seconds to do some work with a 1-point lead. Here's a drive here. Braxton Beverly dribbles behind his back. What a move! Off the back rim, no good on the 2-point pop. Guerrier going down the court with it. Gives it off to Boeheim. Nearly lost the ball. Cutting Alan Griffin in the hoop for Syracuse. 60-59, the lead for the Orange. And heavyweight fights go back and forth on the other end of the court. The layups up and in for Helms. And both teams responding back to each other. 61-60 is the lead right now for NC State. 7:45 on the clock. Here's Kadari Richmond for Syracuse. A drive, and Bates sent that one way out of bounds. What a rejection that time. But they'll call goaltending, so Kadari Richmond gets the two. And now it's a 1-point lead for Syracuse, Marchak. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps lulling me to sleep is what this game was doing by halftime, and then they explode out of this back and forth. Of course, Syracuse started on a run, and now this is really as exciting as it gets. I wouldn't be surprised to see the viewers jump right now because this is certainly an exciting game. I mean, back and forth, both squads having all players make statements. Right now, Kadari Richmond was trying to make a statement. He slowed down the game, and I think he did a great job at that, especially now that when the game kind of speeds up in transition, Syracuse tends to fall behind, just as Boeheim trained him to do. And, you know, I guess you could say drawing the points there, whatever you want to say, Bates really emphatically swatted that one away. And personally, I would have given him the block. And that tells you just how unbiased I am, literally wearing a Syracuse shirt. So this has been a fun game back and forth, Gio. This might go down right to the final seconds.
Yeah, we really do try and keep it unbiased. We do. We swear, though, that, you know, as a broadcaster, that's part of the job, right? College will be interesting no matter where we go because, you know, when you go to a university, that rooting, you know, you become a fan. No matter where you go, you become a fan. There's no doubt about it. There's that sense of pride that you go to school there. So no matter where we go, calling games will certainly be interesting as far as biases go. It's a lesson that we must learn, but we're working on it, to say the least. I will agree with you. I think that was a block, and I think Syracuse got a little bit of a break there from the referee because that looked like one great block. I don't even think the ball was coming down. I think it was on its way up. I thought that was a clean block out of Bates, but, you know, we're not referees, clearly.
Yeah, I think that was a great play. I think that really displays the true reach and athleticism of Bates, who's been manhandling the inside all night defensively and offensively. He is so fun to watch. And this is the first time that Syracuse has given up a massive performance from a center, and he's been the guy that they've leaned to. You and I had that huge question mark. Without Devin Daniels, who will, NC State lean on offensively? And right now, it's certainly Manny Bates.
And, I called it going into the game, and you did as well. That's a matchup for NC State, right? Syracuse doesn't have a guy that can hang with that, and his stats support that with evidence. I mean, we sound like scientists out here making that kind of prediction, right? But you hit the nail right on the head. He's just fun to watch. As a college basketball fan, the guy is electric right now to watch down low for NC State. And what a performance he's having. Syracuse leads at 62-61 over NC State. Manny Bates, 17 points and 14 rebounds. Nearly as many rebounds as he has points. That's astonishing to me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the size difference, you can only guess that he'll be the leading rebounder, not just for his squad, but in the entire game. And I believe whichever way this game falls in favor of, he'll end up being the rebounding guy and perhaps the leading scorer as well. He's just been so efficient, and he's super, it's pretty much as center as it gets. You see in the ACC sometimes guys who really aren't true centers. They're not 6'10 plus, they're not 200 pounds, and they don't have a deep shot. And he's certainly one of them. And for Syracuse, meanwhile, we have guys who in the center position are leading in assists at times. Merrick Dolezaj has been leading in assists at times during the season. He's a guy who can seriously drop dimes and really isn't a center at heart. And we see that with other squads in the ACC, not with Manny Bates. Really as centerish as it gets, a guy who's kind of afraid to shoot from depth, but can he handle the paint so well. So fun to watch.
Great analysis there, as always, Marchak. Back to basketball we go. Under 7.5 to play. NC State looking for a response. Syracuse leads at 62-61, and the zone defense has been just a little bit better in the second half than it was in half number one, holding the Wolfpack in check a little bit, not giving up easy buckets. Two-pointer here from the right side off the mark. Thomas Allen couldn't hit, but last touch down low going for a rebound by Allen Griffin. So NC State basically gets a free possession here with an extra 20 seconds to do work. Braxton Beverly to inbound, 7:10 left on the game clock. And with a 1-point game like this, a bucket takes the lead. That's kind of the fun part about this. Lead changes have been back and forth as both teams throw haymaker after haymaker. We'll keep making that analogy. On the inside, Hellam's a two-pointer from the left elbow, and he hits. He's had that shot open all night, Marchak, and he continues to do work with that shot. 63-62 is the lead for NC State. They keep feeding the ball to Helms and Bates down low. Boeheim, deep three, and he connects. Buddy, bullseye from downtown, and it's a 2-point lead for the Orange. 6.5 to play. Oh, my goodness, Marchak.
Yeah, good ball movement, and Boeheim making a statement right back. This game's going to continue to be back and forth if we're seeing shots like that, Gio.
Helms on the inside, try to get a pass down low to Bates. Last touched off the foot of one of the Orange guys down low, according to the referee. Checking into the ball game for the Wolfpack is Cam Hayes. Jericho Helms tonight has 19 points for NC State. The Wolfpack to inbound all the way down the court. They'll finally get it into Cam Hayes back in the ball game, running the point for NC State. It's a 2-point lead for Syracuse with 6:16 on the clock. Braxton Beverly, a deep three off the back rim. Allen Griffin, a rebound. And the Orange have an opportunity to make this a 2-possession ball game with a bucket here. Kadari Richmond, a drive off to Allen Griffin, cutting from the top of the key. A spin move comes in. Manny Bates with a big rejection, and NC State streaking out for 2. On the inside, Sebron couldn't hit. An offensive rebound for Helms, and he connects. Wow, what a game here inside the dome. We're back tied up at 65 all, 5:44 left to go, Marchak. Incredible what both teams are doing.
Yeah, like I said, I think this will go down right to the stretch, the final seconds, if we're going to continue to hit big shots like that.
Boeheim with a 2. He couldn't hit. Guerrier, all he had to do was tip it in on an offensive rebound, and he missed it. He tipped it. It hit off the back iron and then falls out. So instead of 2-point lead for Syracuse, now we're still tied, 5.5 to go, and I believe NC State is awarded the possession on top of it, Marchak.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
tough.
that's a big play right there. Some of those small plays that we've seen now, that might have been the third shot that Gary just simply should have put back in, but he just doesn't have the touch that he usually does tonight. And that's all a part of the inconsistencies of Syracuse, New York. You see it far too often with squads like this where, they just can't seem to have a day-to-day type of performance. And really, he's one of those guys that usually does. Him and Griffin have been our consistencies on the offensive end of the court, but not tonight necessarily, although he has scored well for Syracuse.
So we remain 65 all. The Orange could have had a 2-point lead. Instead, 65-65 is your score. 5:13 left to go. A drive here and off the back rim, no good. Shaquille Moore couldn't hit, and the Orange will take it the other way. Bates was down low and tried to box it out, but out of bounds it went nonetheless. So Syracuse here. We're at the 5-minute mark here in the second half. Kadary Richmond a drive, a floater, and he hits nothing but net using his size advantage up over Shaquille Moore. Richmond 6'5", and then on the other end, Shaquille Moore 6'1". That 4 inches definitely showed off there, Kyle. It's a 2-point lead for Syracuse.
Oh, yeah, that reach is fantastic at his position. He utilizes it well, both with steals and when he gets into the paint. He can play like a big man. He can play like a guard, obviously, running the guard position right now. Super fun to watch, and I'll say that every night about this guy. He'll develop into serious talent for Syracuse, but for now, just a huge spark off the bench.
NC State turned it over. It was Dolezaj with the steal. Boeheim, three-pointer, right wing. Yes! Buddy, bullseye from downtown, and the Orange are hot. Their largest lead of the night, 70-65. Kevin Keats wants to talk things over. 4:14 left to go, and Boeheim connects from deep.
Cardiac Cuse, they claw their way all the way back. Griffin, great ball movement, kicking it back out to the wing, and Boeheim, sharpshooter, hit it. Buddy bullseye, as you said it, right on the mark, found the red, and that is just as good as it gets. Really, Syracuse, their ball movement, picking it up a little bit, and they'll continue to succeed if they kick the ball out from the wing like that.
Michael took the words right out of your mouth, Marchak. He said it wouldn't be Cuse without the cardiac. You got that right. We got an ACC heavyweight battle inside the Dome tonight. The Orange take a 5-point lead, their largest of the night. We have 4:14 left to go on the clock, and we have ourselves one terrific ball game, Marchak. Bates has been a little quieted since acquiring 3 fouls. Has to be very careful defensively, and the biggest thing is how careful he has to be going up for rebounds. The last thing he can do is afford an over the back or anything like that rebounding the ball. Has 3 fouls. The Orange getting him 3 fouls has really changed this ball game in the last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I mean, if you recall the stats going into the second half, Bates was just absolutely running away with it. And of course, for Syracuse, their guy usually is Guerrier, and he's right back with him. Of course, Griffin, our leading scorer, with 17 right now, which is almost tied with Bates, although Helms is up with 21. With that being said, Guerrier calling his way back in the rebound category as well, only 4 down, and of course with 10 points as well. So he's in double figures already. Both teams doing that quickly. I think this will end up being a high-scoring game as we're already matching our yearly averages almost. So that tells you just how emphatic the offense has been tonight for both squads. It's just been back and forth, Gio.
And the Orange defense has showed up certainly in the second half, getting them back into this game. Starting to lose the voice a little bit, getting a little too excited over here. But Syracuse now with their largest lead of the night. It's by 5. Don't count out the Wolfpack just yet, though, because they've shown all night that they can hit threes and they can certainly get the ball on the inside.
Yeah, I think Syracuse, although I'm sure they're excited to be in the middle of a scoring spree right now, especially now that Boeheim is shooting over 50% from 3, which tells you how hot he is. They really need to hunker down defensively. Obviously, you have guys like longer guys at their position like Kadary Richmond and Griffin who have made big plays defensively down the stretch. We recall back to that Buffalo game earlier in the season. Griffin made a huge block to send it into overtime. He's a guy that you should watch out for. If he makes the schematic changes that he's supposed to position-wise, I think he'll be a person that can, hunker down the stretch. Of course, Dolezaj is going to be the biggest one for Syracuse. Stay out of foul trouble, make the plays you need to. He's been a guy who struggles defensively at the center position, both rebounding and just in general because of that lack of size. He's not a true center. So it's been certainly a huge problem, and hopefully he stays, just as efficient as he needs to down the stretch.
And Marchak, the big shot that's been there all night so far for NC State is Jericho Helms just getting that feed from the top. Usually it comes from Braxton Beverly and pulling up right from that left elbow free throw line area, and he hits pretty much 9 times out of 10. They're leaving that open because it's a difficult spot where you get it there, but Dolezaj doesn't want to cheat up because then you could just pass it to the interior. It's an easy dunk for Bates. So in the 2-3 zone, that shot is always going to be there. Look for Helms to get going with that shot once more here in the final 4 minutes. We're back to basketball. 5-point lead for the Orange. 4 minutes exactly left to go on the clock. Here's Helms' drive on Dolezaj. Off the window and in. Man, did NC State need that bucket. And they got it. Jericho Helms, the 6'7", 205-pound junior forward out of St. Louis, Missouri, delivered. Now Syracuse on the other end of the court. Dolezaj top of the key. And off to Alan Griffin at the top. He's going to pull up from the right wing. Left it way short. Missed it all. And a foul down low. It looks like Helms was in on the action, Marchak. What are you seeing right now out of both teams?
Yeah, well, obviously I've been paying attentively. This is just back and forth game. And obviously, the lack of execution for Syracuse has been a problem. You can see that on that very play. And obviously the execution has been a lot better. I think the entire team, when they start scoring, does it in spurts, and it kind of all rubs off on top of each other. They can just all start scoring. And so you see that often with Syracuse, a team that scores in big stretches, and they might be cooling off right now if you see guys like Griffin missing shots, because he's usually the one down the stretch defensively and offensively who is the man. So it's tough to see. Meanwhile, NC State, a team who, as you mentioned, relying on Helms, and Helms, their lead scorer for a reason. He's been hitting his shots from the three-point line, from that elbow. He's just so comfortable, and the ball movement has created those shot opportunities for him. So the ball movement's going to be big for NC State down the stretch.
Darian Sebron couldn't hit down low, and Syracuse takes it away. It's worth noting Syracuse would like this game to finish in regulation. Quincy Guerrier has 4 fouls, and Dolezaj has 3. Alan Griffin also has 3. A big steal here. Syracuse was up by 3, still are. Boeheim turns it over. It was Thomas Allen stretching out for a steal, a foul on the floor against Boeheim, and NC State not in the bonus yet, but Syracuse has turned the ball over on back-to-back possessions, just asking for NC State to tie the game up. Down 3, 70-67 is your score in favor of Syracuse. 2:38 left to go here on the clock, and the Wolfpack to inbound. And here we go. 2.5 minutes to play. The Orange lead it by 3. The cardiac cues in full effect tonight. Braxton Beverly on the left side. Gives it up to Thomas Allen, top of the key. Back to Allen. Went back to Beverly. They just keep passing it back and forth. The zone is certainly confusing NC State a little bit here. They have to move. 10 seconds to go on the shot clock. Left side, Helms deep 3 with Dolezaj in the face, off the front rim, kisses off the glass. No good. Dolezaj a rebound. What a way for Dolezaj to come all the way about 15 feet across the court. 70-67 will remain the lead for Syracuse. 2 minutes to go on the clock. Boeheim wants a timeout and wants to talk things over. 2:01 left to play. 70-67 still the score. Neither squad has put points on the board in the last couple of minutes, and we still have ourselves a 3-point ball game.
Meanwhile, 1 timeout left for NC State, 2 for Syracuse, so that'll help down these final 2 minutes, as they're certainly going to cash all of those in as much as possible. If you look at the 3-point field goals, 6 for 21 for NC State, 8 for 21 for Syracuse, believe it or not. Helms, obviously the man that's been so efficient offensively, he might have most of those 3-point shots. He's looked really sharp, or I believe I'm thinking Beverly, a guy who's been really sharp with 3 for 5. Meanwhile, Boeheim's been the guy for Syracuse, so you might see them get a couple shots down the stretch, although I'd like to think that both of them will try and make it to the paint, especially NC State with still some time on the clock despite being down by 3. I think we'll rely on the paint a little bit more, especially the way Bates has been playing all night.
Absolutely, Marchak. Fantastic analysis as always. And here we go. 2:01 left to go on the clock. The Orange lead it by 3. Boeheim inbounds it to Dolezaj on the right wing. Dolezaj, a spin move, doing work up on Manny Bates. Couldn't hit. Pulls down the offensive rebound. The Orange with a fresh 20. Kadari Richmond at the top of the key. Here's Dolezaj. And again, they're going to keep attacking Manny Bates because he's in foul trouble as well. Alan Griffin off to Boeheim on the right wing. The Orange now with 5 seconds left to go. Boeheim, spin move. Bates comes out with a huge rejection. NC State needed it. On the other end of the court, Sebron an easy 2, and it's a 1-point ball game in Syracuse. 70-69, the lead for the Orange. 1:26 left to go on the clock, and Manny Bates averages 3.4 blocks a game. That's third in college basketball. Richmond a drive, kisses it off the glass, and he hits. Kaderi Richmond, the freshman, with a response. Back-to-back buckets for freshmen, respectively, on their teams. 72-69 the score, and the lead back to 3 for Syracuse. 1 minute to go inside the dome. Sebron, a pump fake. Steps back, three-pointer, right side. Left it short. Out of bounds it goes, off the hands of Manny Bates, and Syracuse gets the ball back with 55 seconds left. What a game we have inside the dome. The spin move. Kaderi Richmond, freshman on freshman doing work. That's the best play I've seen out of him this season offensively.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that was the biggest one, not just the best, but the biggest one, because he's one of those guys that has that it factor. He gets the ball and he needs to score down the stretch, and he is so efficient at doing that thus far. A guy that Syracuse fans have been calling for to get that starting spot over Joe Girard, who has had his fair share of success in the court as well. So I think they'll be splitting minutes a little bit more often if Kaderi Richmond continues to do that. Meanwhile, an official review on the court.
Official review, wondering what they're talking about here. It actually looks like they're seeing who this was last touched by. I think without a doubt, this is touched by Quincy Guerrier. I don't think there's any, maybe there is disputing this. Let's see. I think that's Guerrier.
Yeah, close.
I think that's Guerrier.
If this turns in Syracuse's favor, that's as lucky as it gets.
Yeah, that's a little bit that's unlikely considering NC State's been in the ACC since the beginning, and Syracuse is a fresh joiner in the last 5 or 6 years. So I think that ACC refs usually give the old school teams the benefit of the doubt, and I don't think there's any doubt about that here. Should be NC State ball whenever they decide to return. It was close, although you look at it from that angle, and it looks like Bates touches it last. So angles are a weird thing because looks can be deceiving sometimes as they continue to look things over, Marchak.
Yeah, I mean, they need indisputable evidence in order for it to fall in the favor of Syracuse, and it's tough to tell. On that angle, it looks like it's indisputable that NC State actually did touch it last, whereas from the baseline viewing angle in front of Quincy Guerrier, you can see that perhaps maybe it touched his hand last. It's all tough to tell with the ricochets. I'd be surprised, or I wouldn't be surprised to see it fall either way.
Yeah, I think it should be NC State ball here. We'll see. Gary has had himself a great game for Syracuse as well. I can't wait to take a look at this final box score, no matter who wins. I mean, there's some great performances that have taken place here tonight. The Orange get the ball. They are awarded the possession. 72-69 is the lead. That's a big break for the Orange as they inbound. NC State might have to foul here. They're in a full court press. The Orange able to get it past half court. Alan Griffin nearly turns it over, gets the ball stripped. On the other end, here's Helms hitting the tin. Alan Griffin swats it away, but a foul is called. So Helms will shoot 2 at the free throw line, an opportunity to make it a 1-point game. And NC State will not go away without a fight. Look at Helms just swatting it right out of the hands of Alan Griffin going to the other end. And the foul on the freshman Richmond. Look at his face. He's disgusted, Marchak.
Richmond, that guy, like I said, has that it factor down the stretch as Helms misses his first free throw, and he swats it. Griffin's there. He swats it after. I mean, that's really just as good as a defensive stand down the stretch gets, although Helms, of course, making that statement on the steal.
That's a big first miss out of Helms, but he connects his second, so it's a 2-point ball game now, which if you're Syracuse, you can breathe a sigh of relief because a 2-pointer would tie it, not take the lead if he were able to make both, but he doesn't. He goes 1 for 2, and we've seen that many times tonight. 72-70 is your score. 45 seconds left. Syracuse with the ball. Dolezaj on the inbound, taking it up the court. Not necessarily the guy you want to ball handle right now, and he's fouled. So Dolezaj will shoot. No, he will not shoot. Syracuse is not in the bonus yet. Excuse me. I apologize. 72-70 is still the lead for the Orange. 39.2 on the clock exactly. Kevin Keats telling his team, Marchak, what do you do right now? Do you foul or do you hope to get another steal? Syracuse 24 seconds on the shot clock. I don't think you foul right away.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell. I mean, now that they're draining the clock, you wouldn't want the ball in the hands of Dolezaj if he does get fouled because it's likely they won't convert. Now they hand it off to Richmond. It's tough to tell in a position like this for NC State.
Now, Kaderi Richmond ball handling here. He's lost it a couple of times and a foul on the floor. Darian Sebron was trying to poke it away and just too much of a reach here. Drawing a little bit of contact is Richmond. The Orange still not in the bonus. 20.7 to go on the clock. And NC State really needs a steal because if the Orange can hit 2, it would make this thing a 4-point ball game. An inbound again. Sebron a foul. Richmond is the one to draw the contact. Still no bonus for the Orange. They'll continue to inbound, and that says a lot about the defense of NC State. They've played phenomenal defense, and they've done so without fouling this game because the Orange, at least in the second half, are not in the bonus just yet. Another foul on the floor. Actually, it looks like Boeheim calls a timeout possibly. Might want to talk things over here. And I think that's exactly what took place. We'll get a timeout on the floor from Boeheim. 19.6 to go on the clock, Marchak. 72-70. And Kyle, we have 44 viewers right now, which is the SU lucky number. I think that might be
it better stay like that.
A little bit of possible fate here. So that's pretty cool to see. Appreciate everybody tuning in here for a fantastic Cardiac Cuse matchup here. The Orange were down 9 at halftime, clawed their way back. Great offensive push in the second half, and the defense has really tightened things up. They find themselves with a 2-point lead, 72-70, with 19 seconds left to go in this game. Plus, the Orange have the ball. 19.6 seconds. It's worth noting, if a jump ball does occur, NC State does have the possession arrow. So that's just, again, something worth noting. We have lots of people here commenting in support of the Wolfpack here. The wrong broadcast. I mean, appreciate the tune-ins to say the least. Again, I appreciate you tuning in, but if you can't tell, this is definitely a Syracuse broadcast, but we again definitely call it very evenly. 19.6 to go on the clock. Boeheim the inbound to Dolezaj, and it's a foul. That is a foul against Bates. Bates now should have 4. And Dolezaj will not shoot yet. It's still not in the bonus. Remarkable. NC State was 6 fouls, so 1 more will do it. And a foul here against Bates on Dolezaj. I think that should be Bates' 5th, if I'm not mistaken. He had 3. I think that should be Bates' 5th, but he's not heading to the sideline just yet. We'll see. Looks like there's a timeout on the floor, and I think Bates is checking out. We'll see if we can get a graphic or something, but he had 3, just committed 2 in a row. That should be 5.
For whatever reason, that might have been a redo on that inbound. It's tough to tell. Yeah, Manny Bates did foul out, so that is his 5th. He is out. That's pivotal with these final 17 seconds because they need a big defensive stand. So you'd imagine Syracuse would definitely want to turn towards driving into the paint. We'll see who replaces him, but that is big down the stretch.
I couldn't agree with you more. Now, Bates had 7. It's worth saying, we said it all night. Bates was a dominant force today for NC State, really stepped up, had 17 points, 14 rebounds, and just had a fantastic performance, tacked on an assist as well. That's probably the best performance I've seen out of a big man so far this year. And I've watched Keve Aluma play a lot for Virginia Tech, dropped 29 last night and had 12 rebounds. So that's pretty darn good too, but a big performance out of Bates. Dolezaj hits the first. It was a 1-and-1 for Syracuse. And 1 more free throw should ice the game for the Orange with 17.7. It would be a 4-point lead. Dolezaj, 86% from the charity stripe this year. Second one's up, and it's good. The Orange, 74-70, 17.7 left. It's not over, but the fat lady's certainly singing.
And then State will call the timeout, but that is a huge conversion right there for Syracuse. It went down to those final 2 free throws, and 86% free throw percentage for Dolezaj. Not exactly what you would expect for a starting center, you could say, although he's more of a smaller power forward. And so those are huge. That's really just ice in the veins right there, hitting those final 2 to put the game away. But it's not over yet. NC State with possession. We'll see how that turns out.
Absolutely. Now, Syracuse with a 4-point advantage, Marchak. NC State not out of this game. I mean, there's no way I would say NC State's anywhere out of this game the way they've been able to shoot tonight, especially Braxton Beverly able to find guys inside. Without Bates in the game right now, they're obviously going to try and look to Helms. It would be my biggest guess here. 13 seconds on the clock. What do you have to do if you're NC State? Are you trying to go for a 3 or get a quick 2 and foul? I mean, it's tough because if Syracuse makes both and you get a 2, then you're right back to square one again. with a 4-point game. So you almost want to go for a 3. That way, no matter what, it's a 1-possession ball game. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think what they will end up turning towards is Helms right off the inbound in the paint to finish and then try and get the foul. They know that it's a 2-possession game either way. I'd imagine the 3-point shot won't be that important because of it. If they do turn towards the 3-point shot, watch for a quick swiping Beverly around the top of the key for a quick shot off the inbound. He's been their 3-point shooter tonight. We'll see if he can hit the dagger and then put the game away in the final possession. But for now, I think they'll turn towards Helms on the inside.
And how about the NC State Wolfpack, what they've been able to do tonight without their star player in Devin Daniels, and DJ Funderburk has not played. He was the second leading scorer for NC State. Incredible what the Wolfpack have done tonight. And we said big guys had to step up. They did exactly that, and we'll talk about it in the box score. 12 seconds to go on the clock. NC State in desperate need of a bucket here. A drive, nearly off the glass. 3-pointer from the right wing. Off the mark, no good. But a foul on the floor against Quincy Guerrier. That's, I believe, Guerrier's 5th foul. And shooting 3 from the charity stripe, it will be Thomas Allen from the right corner. Guerrier does. He just falls right back into it. I mean,
it's not a foul you can commit. It's just not a foul you can commit down the stretch. Of course, he's trying to put in a good defensive stand. He lands right in front of him. That's 110% a foul. He fouls out with 10 points and I believe 10 plus rebounds. So he lands in double figures. Unfortunately, just not something you can make down the stretch. But, you see Bates sacrifice himself for a big defensive effort at the end too, although that was an intentional foul. So both teams swapping fouls here, and this could be a big shot for NC State to all of a sudden find themselves right back in it as they add seconds back onto the clock. 6.1 left for the team, or for the game, excuse me. I'm sorry, this game is just so back and forth. It's hard to keep up, Gio.
Yeah, absolutely. So 74-70 is the score right now. Syracuse leads it. 6.1 seconds on the clock, but right now it's going to be 3 free throws at the line for Thomas Allen. And NC State can draw this to a 1-point game. They would then have to foul on the inbound. But no matter what, if Syracuse made both and Allen makes all 3, it's still a 1-possession 3-point ball game. This is an incredible game right now. Allen hits the first free throw. Now it's a 3-point game. It's 1 possession right now. Syracuse, that was a bad foul. Guerrier fouls out. If you go into overtime, you're without your best player right now. Allen hits the second. He's 67% from the free throw line so far this year. Not incredible to say the least, but he's hit the first 2. That's clutch if you're the NC State Wolfpack and Thomas Allen. 1 more free throw, and they need this bad. It's a 2-point game. 74-72 the lead for Syracuse. Second free throw up and money.
This inbound is going to be massive right here.
That is ice in the veins right there of Thomas Allen. Dolezaj calls a timeout. Syracuse, I believe that was their last one left. Dolezaj wants to talk things over. Boeheim saying, what are you doing? And just want to come up with an inbound play here. So what's going to happen, Marchak, and obviously you know this just as well as I do, but they're going to inbound, and NC State's going to go for a steal. If you're Syracuse, you cannot turn the ball over. You have to get the ball into somebody, no matter who it is. There will be a foul, and Syracuse will shoot 2. Actually, they're in a 1-and-1 situation. They're not in the double bonus, so Syracuse has to make the first and then try and make the second. If they can hit 2, it'll be a 3-point game. NC State will have to throw up a prayer because of the minimal amount of time on the clock. They'll have probably about 4 seconds to run down the court and put something up. So this could go either way. Syracuse has the advantage, but man, that foul against Guerrier was huge. And how about Thomas Allen? 67% from the free throw line this year. Came up ice in the veins, hit 3 with confidence. Didn't even think twice.
Yeah, I mean, I think both teams have been fantastic down the stretch offensively. Both teams hitting huge shots that they need to. If we look at Buddy Boeheim's graphic right now, he's been a dude who has done pretty much everything, on one of the best defenders I've seen in the court tonight in Patrick Beverly. That dude, or not Patrick, excuse me, in Braxton Beverly, although he does defend a little bit like Patrick Beverly, you could say, just so handsy and right there in front of the face. And so he's been fun to watch, making the effort, but Boeheim's been good over the top on the 3-point shots. And then on the inside, he's finished well. He leads with 17 points, although Guerrier had a good statement with 10, and Griffin's had some spurts as well. I'd imagine right here they would probably want to hand it off to guys like Gerard, Griffin, or Boeheim because they've been those leaders tonight, and try and make them hold on to the ball. And if they get that 1-and-1, guys like Gerard can certainly convert that first shot, although you never know.
And here we go, Marchak. 6.1 seconds on the clock. Syracuse leads at 74-73. The Orange cannot turn over the ball on the inbound. NC State will have to foul if it's successful. It's a successful inbound for Syracuse. 74-73 the lead for the Orange. 6.1 on the clock. Dolezaj to inbound. Gets it in to Alan Griffin, and he's instantly fouled with 4.9 seconds on the clock. Alan Griffin will shoot a 1-of-1 at the free throw line. The Orange in the single bonus. If he hits the first, he'll get a chance at a second. If he misses it, NC State will have 4.9 seconds to take it down the court. It's a 1-point lead for Syracuse. This is cardiac cues in full effect. I think it's the most exciting we've seen this year.
This is pretty much as good as it gets. You see it with Syracuse so often, a team that because they score in spurts, the ball just, it ends up just, in one team's hands with several seconds to go, and it's a 1 or 2 point game. And again, we find ourselves down the stretch with a 1-possession game. Just when you thought Syracuse walked away with it with that 4-point lead, that huge foul that Guerrier committed, who was really just trying to make a good defensive stand, ended up falling in the favor of NC State, who converted all 3 free throws, mind you. And now this is probably going to be the biggest free throw of the night with 5 seconds to go. Griffin gets his first one.
The 1-of-1, and he hits. Alan Griffin hits the first free throw on the 1-of-1. So 75-73, the lead for Syracuse. 4.9 on the clock. Needs to hit the second because a Hail Mary would take the lead. Hits the second. So NC State, no timeouts, has to inbound it. 3 seconds on the clock. They get the ball in. Left side, three-pointer is up, off the mark, and Syracuse survives. 76-73, the final score. The Hail Mary for Cam Hayes doesn't fall with Dolezaj's hands in his face, and the Orange survive a thriller inside the Carrier Dome tonight. What a ball game. The Orange are celebrating as they head to the locker room, Marchak, and this is just a sigh of relief if you're a Syracuse fan. NC State with a fantastic performance. Just what a game it was tonight.
Yeah, I think an absolutely gritty performance from guys like Beverly and Helms down the stretch. They made a statement showing that despite, of course, Bates making a performance too, mind you, without Devin Daniels on the court, I think NC State made a fantastic effort, and a team that when they get other guys back on the court, although Daniels is out for the season, that you'd imagine they could certainly be an NCAA tournament type of squad, although they're on the bubble just as Syracuse will probably stay. So this is just as good as ACC basketball gets, Gio. I can feel my heart palpitating right now.
I can feel it too, man. The cardiac cues. We got to love it. Games like this, there is nothing better. This is why we do what we do, for the love of sports. And it just makes doing this job incredible. I can't wait for high school basketball to get going. You and I will be in the gymnasium every night calling basketball games. And man, that was one heck of a game for Syracuse. And appreciate everybody who has tuned in thus far. Really a blast having everybody here. Had as many as 55 people up here tonight. Absolutely incredible. I mean, thank you guys so much for all the support, for tuning in. It's well appreciated by us. I mean, it just means so much to us to have that big of an audience calling these games. It was a blast tonight, Marchak. Let's take a look at the box scores before we turn everybody loose and take a look at really what went on here tonight. The final score for Syracuse, 76-73. Break down that NC State Wolfpack box score for us.
Well, as I mentioned, guys needed to step up for Devin Daniels' absence, and there was certainly a plentiful amount of offensive production, both off the bench and from the starting lineup, who replaced Daniels' presence. The first one to mention, Bates fouled out right at the end, but he landed with 17 points, 14 rebounds, 22 points, 9 rebounds for Helms, who's had a hell of a performance as well, very well-rounded. Hayes with 3 rebounds, 3 points, 4 assists, and a couple fouls in there too, but he did not foul out like his partner in crime in Bates. And of course, 11 points, 4 assists, and 1 rebound from Beverly, who had a great defensive stand, I would say. And then a quiet performance, 6 points, 3 rebounds from Allen. Meanwhile, off the bench, they had 14 points in total, 5 from Moore, and then 9 from Devin Sebron, who had a hell of a performance as well with a couple of rebounds to tack on. Gibson got on the court a little bit as well, but he had little to say in that final performance. Meanwhile, Syracuse, some other guys to turn to.
Yeah, absolutely. Leading the way for the Orange, it was none other than Alan Griffin led the way. I missed that. Alan Griffin, 19 points tonight, 6 for 13 from the field, 3 for 7 from downtown, 6 rebounds and 2 assists. Great performance out of Alan Griffin. Boeheim comes in second place. Got the hiccups going on after the cardiac Cuse.
Too excited.
It messes with you, dude. It really does. It really does. A big Cuse win like that. But so Syracuse, Buddy Boeheim tallies in second, 17 points, 6 for 16 from the field, 4 for 8 from downtown, 2 rebounds and 3 assists. Guerrier had 10 points, fouled out, 5 for 11 from the field, and 10 rebounds. That's another double-double for the big man out of Canada, Quincy Guerrier. Dolezaj had 11 points, 4 for 6 from the field, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. Almost a double-double for the Slovakian Hammer. And Kadary Richmond, off the bench, great offensive output, his best of the year, 14 points, 6 for 7 from the field. Absolutely incredible out of Kadary Richmond on the offensive side. Played great defense as well. Had a rebound and an assist. NC State shot the ball 44.3% from the field, 26.1% from downtown. They went into the locker room, Marchak, shooting over 40% from three-point. NC State struggled in the second half. The zone did a lot better of closing out for Syracuse, dropped all the way down to 26% from downtown for NC State. The Orange, 46% from the field and 38.1% from downtown. Overall, a better shooting team, and that resulted in a win. NC State won the rebound category, 37-35, but Syracuse certainly held their own. If you're NC State, the heads have to remain high because you were without your 2 best players in Devin Daniels and DJ Funderburk, and what a performance tonight out of the Wolfpack. But Syracuse comes away with a 76-73 victory. Marchak, your final remarks.
Well, Syracuse clearly executed down the stretch, as you mentioned that statistic. NC State walking into the locker rooms with over 40% shooting from 3. They ended up with only 26, so left a little empty-handed. Of course, Syracuse winning by only 3 points, so that was certainly an impressive and important category down the stretch. I think the execution was fantastic. Boeheim turned them around defensively. Alan Griffin had a better defensive performance, which is what I was looking for in that second half. And Syracuse, a massive game, although it didn't look like it, to make their statement as not just a bubble team, but a possible NCAA tournament squad. So that is massive right there.
Absolutely, Marchak. I couldn't agree with you more. Thanks so much for joining me here tonight, man. It was a great game. Cardiac Cuse in full effect as always.
Oh, yeah, right down to the final seconds as I called it. And really, I think anyone expected that from Syracuse. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. The best analyst and color commentator in the entire world, my broadcast partner, Kyle Marchak. The Orange, Cardiac Cuse on full display tonight. Thanks so much for everybody that tuned in. We'll be right back here for the next SU basketball matchup. We're getting a little busier because the announcements just came out that we get to call high school games. High school basketball is back. Football season for New York State is right around the corner, believe it or not. Crazy to think about that. Just want to go ahead and attend to this comment real quick. When the Syracuse women's team makes the tournament, consider doing those games as well as they don't conflict. They got a great squad this year. I'd love to. We should do that, Marchak. We should 100%. Definitely. They're getting good. They're getting good. So we should definitely attend to some women's games, to say the least, especially if and when they make the NCAA tournament. That would be exciting. Thanks so much again for everybody that tuned in. Marchak, it was a blast.
I loved it. Cardiac Cuse. My final statement, Syracuse has some changes to make, but down the stretch they executed, and if they continue to do that, we might see them in the tournament this year.
The Orange with a big-time win over the NC State Wolfpack, 76-73 your final. It was NC State and Syracuse. It was ACC college basketball, and it was right here on Orange Sheet. Have a great night, everybody.